And we are live. Welcome to the NBA Deeper Dive. It is Thursday, March 30th. I am Josh Engleman. I am joined by Adam Scherer. We are brought to you by Sorare. We've got a pretty easy one today. Just two games to talk about. The 7:30 start is a fantastic game. I hope that we get everybody involved. Honestly, Pels Nuggets isn't so shabby either, but lots of Q tags in that one too. Before we get started, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, hit the notification bell so you know when everything goes live. Follow us both on Twitter if you can. Adam, what's going on, man? How's it opening day going for you? 1-0, Orioles, top of the table.
Yeah, enjoying it. Nothing looking great from a fantasy standpoint, but fun game for the Orioles. Nice win. They tried to blow it at the end, but came through. So I don't know. It was a fun game. It's different with the rules.
Yeah.
The pitch clock in general, like I don't like that they added it, but in general, I think it'll be good. It's just that to me, the downside pisses me off so much compared to like the sped up game. Like it happened in the O's game today. Obviously, it worked in my favor, but Devers ends up striking out without a pitch being thrown. Game ends up being a 1-run game. Like to me, that just is awful. Like that can't happen. And then you have a crazy amount of stolen bases now, which is at least entertaining, but also bordering on absurd, at least based on how games went today.
Yeah, I think we'll need like a full year for everybody to just sort of get it into their veins a bit and get used to it. And then, we'll see what it ends up looking like moving forward. It's not like it's going to make a difference to me. The chances of me watching a baseball game are basically zero, unless I know that I need like whoever's coming up in the ninth in the final game of something to matter. I won't ever know or care. I can't watch it. But what are you going to do? I wish I cared. I really do.
It definitely, I mean, I will say the pitch clock, and again, the reason I hate it is just because like the one time every few games that it's going to cost an at bat is just going to piss me off so much. But it does, from a watchability standpoint, make a noticeable difference. Like when you'll see a pitch now, because I caught myself in the habit a couple of times, like there would be a pitch and, I would look at my phone and whatever. And like, I'd watch enough baseball where I kind of have it timed out, like I'm looking at my phone and I look back and like I missed a pitch and it's like, whoa, this is weird. So like from that aspect, like I do think it's a lot more like, they show a replay or whatever, you see a pitch and then the pitcher's ready to go again. So that is nice from a viewership standpoint. It's just the strikeouts without striking the guy out just make me really mad.
Yeah, that's not an ideal way to handle it, but there's obviously no other mechanism at that point.
Yeah, and they've already, throughout spring training, you've seen it happen less often. They tested it out in the minors last year, and the same thing. It's just that, like, fundamentally changing the game like that is awful, in my opinion.
Yeah, it'll take some time for everybody to get used to it, and eventually we'll just never even notice it. I mean, like, most changes are usually met with, we should never do that. Like, think about basketball not having a shot clock for a while. Like,
right.
There were probably people losing their minds, like, well, why do you got to hurry the whole goal is to break them down? And it's just like, well, sometimes you need people to be entertained by your product. So,
yeah. And it was kind of like getting rid of the shift for me was sort of the same thing. Like, I like the idea of teams being able to use analytics and put themselves in, the best position possible. Yep. But also scoring runs is entertaining. And, there's like a reason you can't just stand below the basket in basketball the entire game.
Yeah.
But once someone like phrased that to me as it's basically just illegal defense, it was like, okay, well, that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's just, how can we make the product as close to what you want it to be as possible by also creating a better visual experience?
Right.
It's a balancing act. You figure it out. Just give me robot umps all over the place and I'm in.
Yeah.
Can't wait. Or just make the dude that rang that kid up in the college game be like a permanent umpire so that it's just pure bedlam 24/7. I'm in for that one too. Well, you want to talk some basketball? We've got 4 teams to talk about for this one. We're probably going to have to dig in. The real problem for these 4 teams is that, like, I don't think that any one of them are all like, they don't have any real weird stuff that goes on. Like, these are pretty 4 cut and dry rotations.
Yeah, and we didn't get, at least as of now, we haven't gotten any of the potential guys ruled out that we thought maybe we would get on the show this morning. We do still have Jokic questionable, but as of now, there's nobody noteworthy on the Bucks injury report. So we don't have, that to talk about. So yeah, it's outside of basically like trying to guess the Joe Val, Larry Nance minutes. There's not a lot like of question marks rotation wise here.
No, not so much. So let's kick it off. We'll start with the Boston Celtics. They are underdogs in Milwaukee, 2.5-point dogs, 237 total here. We'll start on the Boston side. Here are the ownership numbers for all of the guys that are pulling real ownership for the Celtics. 31, 25, 35, 37, 37, 27, 29. These guys are all between 25 and 37% owned. That's Brown, Tatum, White, Smart, Horford, Brogdon, and Time Lord. We've got a Q tag on Robert Williams, a Q tag on Grant Williams, a Q tag on Peyton Pritchard. Probably doesn't matter. That is some aggressively balanced ownership. Let's start at the top between Brown and Tatum, both 25 to 30% owned. When you look at the two, do you have a preference between them?
I would lean Brown just because he, is cheaper. And we don't, at least right now, we don't have a ton of crazy value with it only being a 2-game slate. So I think that the difference in price is probably going to matter. But clearly, you're not going wrong with getting to either guy. Yeah.
I ended up getting to, I'm about neutral on Brown right now, a little bit lighter on Tatum. Spoiler alert, before we get there, I have a lot of Giannis. So for anybody that's looking for the fade today, it's going to be a different pay up option. I can pretty much guarantee it. I mean, the prices are both fine on Brown and Tatum. Like, I think the public ownership is really accurate for Boston. I don't see a lot of separation between these guys, like, relative to salary.
Yeah, me neither. And it was one of the first things I noticed because when Lofty and I did the strategy show this morning, we didn't have ownership yet. And then when I wrote my notebook article, we did have it. And so one of the things I talked about on the strategy show was that I thought Boston looked like the most appealing team and that not one particular guy stood out, but just as a team, you kind of look at the pricing and across the board, it's sort of just, wow, they shaved, $500 to $1,000 off everybody's salary, and they didn't do that on other teams. So collectively, I thought they should get the most ownership, but I didn't think any one guy should get the bulk of it. And that's what you're seeing. You have 7 guys pulling between 25 and 38% ownership on DraftKings. And really, I think that's how it should be.
Do you have someone that you think does stand out more than the others?
Not really. I mean, I guess Marcus Smart maybe at 5,300.
Okay.
But no, not really.
I kind of feel the same way, but Brogdon at 5,400.
Yeah.
just because you never know when he's going to play that like 31-minute game. And there isn't anybody else here that's really going to fall into a ton of minutes. Surprisingly, like Grant Williams could do it, but he's not good enough on a per minute basis for it to like really make a difference. If you knew that Brogdon got 30 today, you're probably expecting that you have to have him to win the GPP. He is a guy that I'm getting quite a bit over the field on. Smart is the other guy as well. They are the two people from Boston that I'm getting to the most, which I guess then lends the question, how do you feel about $5,800 Derek White?
Similarly to the other guys. I mean, he's a little bit more expensive than Brogdon and Smart, so I do like them a little bit more. I do like that Brogdon's getting less ownership than White as well at the cheaper price tag, but I think that they just look very, very similar. I think Al Horford is very similar as well at 5K with power forward eligibility. Like all four of those guys, I would expect you should just be sort of mixing and matching them throughout lineups, and that's what the field's projected to do as well.
How do we want to handle Time Lord? 4,100 center only. This isn't a day where you're just going to be dying, or when you're going to have like 97 center options and you have to sift through it. But he's pulling 30% ownership right now. This is a guy that's played in his past 4 games, 21, 15 and a half, 19 and 15 minutes. What do we do here? Because 30% ownership feels like a lot.
Yeah, 30% feels like a lot. But it is probably worth noting that all of these recent games have been blowouts, at least to some extent. Not that he's somebody you necessarily expect to be in the closing lineup or playing big fourth quarter minutes during the regular season, but it is possible he's lost a little bit of playing time there. At 4,100, given the relative lack of value on this slate, that ownership does still make sense to me just because he's at least a good point per minute guy. And if he plays like 18 minutes at 4,100, he could still end up being fine. But if he just happens to get that 23, 24 minute game, it's not going to take much for him to just suddenly become like, oh shit, I needed Robert Williams today. It's reflected in the boom bust tool, 32% optimal percentage, 30% ownership. And that's within the thing that I guess stands out to me is that 32% optimal percentage is with an 18.8 point projection. It's not like we are being aggressive with his minutes or with his projection. It's just showing you how useful even that modest projection is.
Is there any value to trying to go to someone like Grant Williams in this particular matchup? Not really pulling much ownership, not a great per minute guy. Minutes have been all over the map as of late, but this is the matchup that they have Grant Williams for.
Yeah, I was going to say it's interesting in that regard. The kind of flip side to that, though, is do they want to show it? Like, obviously, Milwaukee knows he exists, but like, do they want to utilize that in a late March regular season game, or do you want to just kind of play Grant Williams' normal minutes and then be able to give Milwaukee a little bit different look in the postseason, assuming that you run into each other? So it is certainly a spot where you could expect Grant Williams to play more if Boston's coming into this game treating it like a playoff game, but I don't know if they will or not.
February 14th, so Valentine's Day of this year. I have not pulled up the actual box score. He played 47 minutes in a start against Milwaukee. I have to assume that was some sort of multiple overtime game.
Likely, or guys were out. It was a 6-point Milwaukee win that went to overtime. The starting lineup for the Celtics was Derek White, Sam Hauser, Grant Williams, Blake Griffin, and Mike Muscala.
That's how you get 47 minutes.
Yeah.
I just clicked on it now to be like, I wonder if like he does just skew higher in Bucks games.
Yeah.
47 stood out a bit. I don't remember that one at all, but that should also carry precisely 0 weight. And there's definitely going to be somebody that's just like, we played a ton of minutes that last time. But I don't think they're going to be playing Muscala and Blake today. I know that you've generally talked where we are more likely to just let it rip without any real rules for teams. How do you feel about setting some more like broad-based groups for Boston where you max 2 of White, Smart, Brogdon type stuff?
Yeah, I was the immediate one I was thinking was max 2 of Grant Williams, Robert Williams, and Horford.
Yeah.
That I think is a good one. The downside to that one, I guess, would be like if Jason Tatum gets in bad foul trouble or something, maybe you're still getting extra Grant Williams minutes. But realistically, I think that setting that max 2 probably makes sense. Setting a max 2 of White, Brogdon, Smart, I think is fine. My concern is that they're cheap enough and have enough potential playing time where I don't think it's crazy to think they all could have good enough games together, without even getting like extra minutes here. Because like if you're setting a max 2 rule there, obviously the thinking is like, well, if Malcolm Brogdon happens to play like 34 minutes, it probably means Derek White didn't play that many minutes. But like if Brogdon plays 26 to 28 and White plays like 30 to 32 and Smart plays like 33, 34, those are all very reasonable numbers where they could all still put up enough fantasy points that you want them. So I don't know if I'd want to set a max 2 on them. I'd be more comfortable setting it on the 2 Williams and Horford.
Sure. Do you see any others that like kind of jump out to you? I've just been trying to like manage these guys in my head and see like just because of the way this one's set up. We might have the same sort of discussion points for Denver with just the way that they're set up and the way that the ownership is coming in. If there are groups of guys that you sort of want to limit, I don't really see anything else.
Yeah, I don't really see anything else either. Yeah, I mean, I think I think the 3 guard one is logical. Like it makes sense. I'm just concerned that like all 3 of them could just end up having good enough games anyway.
Or does it become like max 3 and you include Brown?
But that's still kind of the same thing.
Yeah.
Like there's no reason based on normal rotations those guys can't pay off because this team is so cheap. Sure. Because I think these guys are all just like $500+ too inexpensive. The reason that I like it more on the front court guys is that like Grant Williams' normal rotation isn't enough for me to want to play him.
Agreed.
The normal rotation for all 3 of White, Brogdon, and Smart is still enough for me to want to play them.
Is there any path for you for Sam Hauser?
I don't think so. Like he wasn't even in the rotation last game.
Yeah.
He played, 9 minutes of garbage time at the end. Maybe if Robert Williams is out, you're getting Hauser minutes. Like you would expect you're getting probably a little bit more playing time from Grant Williams. If Robert is out, you're probably getting a little bit more playing time from Horford. But, maybe then you're getting Hauser getting some extra minutes as well, but it could just as easily be one of the backup bigs.
Yeah, I guess is there anything else that we could really touch on if Robert Williams and or Grant Williams are out? Like obviously if they're both out, we've created some sort of value somewhere. Well, maybe not obviously, but like kind of.
Right. I don't think there's a ton. Like if Grant Williams is out and Robert Williams is in, you're probably getting Hauser in the rotation. And he's probably just very comparable to what we were just saying about Grant Williams. He's 3,700, probably playing around 20 minutes or so. And at low ownership, if you want to take that shot, sure. But like, you're not going to be confident in it. It's purely a, 2-game slate type of play. If they're both out, then yeah, like Hauser's probably playing, and you're probably also getting backup minutes from one of the bigs, whether that's Griffin or Cornette or Muscala. But I don't know that it would really matter all that much. I think Robert Williams being out has a bigger impact than Grant Williams because I do think Williams being out, Robert Williams being out is likely to translate to more minutes for Horford in addition to more minutes for somebody like Grant Williams.
Sure. Yeah, Grant Williams becomes much more interesting if Robert Williams is out, because then you kind of just see them using him in a Bucks matchup the way you would expect, whereas now they don't necessarily have to. I don't have anything else here for Boston.
Me neither. The people keep saying Cornette in chat. I assume they're saying if Robert Williams is out. If you're saying Cornette and you don't mean with Williams out, I certainly wouldn't do that.
I think you might need them both.
I mean, like if Robert Williams is out, at least you're drawing live to like Luke Cornette playing 12 minutes as the backup center.
Sure.
But like that could also be Blake Griffin. It could also be Muscala. It could be none of them.
I think it's more likely to be Blake in this matchup. I mean, they were using Blake on Giannis last year in the playoffs, right?
Yeah. I think that's completely reasonable. But yeah, I just kind of wanted to clarify, like if you're thinking Luke Cornette with Robert Williams and Grant Williams in, like the dude's probably not getting off the bench.
Correct. All righty, folks, hit that like button. About 1,000 of you in here. Only 100 likes. That's just not good. So hit that thumbs up. It'll help us out a ton. NBA Live Before Lock coming up next. They'll go from 6:30 all the way up until 8 o'clock. We got to talk about the fact that baseball is back. I played it today. I actually enjoy playing MLB DFS, and I hope that you guys do as well. If you do, or if you haven't and you want to give it a shot, we've got a promo for you. And that promo code is MLB is back. Link is in the description. I assume it'll pop up in chat as well. 50% off your monthly Stochastic Platinum package. This is available for new customers and existing customers, so make sure you're taking advantage of this deal. It will run until April 2nd, so you got a couple more days before this one goes away. Gives you access to everything that we have: projections, ownership, the lineup generator. We've got our top pitchers tool, the top stacks tool. These are the two biggest tools that I think that we have at Stochastic. I know when we first originally created them, it was massive to everything that I was doing for baseball. And I think they will help you guys out pretty dramatically as well. Now, this doesn't include Pick 'em Pro or Bet Pro, but it includes all of the general DFS data that we have. So if you're interested in checking out baseball right now, 50% off for your first month of Stochastic Platinum. Again, the promo code is MLB is back. You can see it on the screen, but click the link in the chat or in the description of the video. Let's go over to the Milwaukee. I don't know how I was saying that word. Milwaukee side. Not the correct way, that's for sure. Yeah, not a lot of ownership here coming into the Bucks. As we look at the Bucks, we have no news. Middleton available, Ingles available, Crowder available, no Myers Leonard. Doesn't really matter. 28% ownership coming into Giannis, 11-4 power forward center. 20% ownership coming into Brook Lopez. Everything else is 10% or less. Let's start at the top. 11-4 for Giannis, 28% ownership. Personally, I'm a little surprised it's not higher.
Yeah, me too. I think pretty clearly the top guy from this team in terms of, like, obviously in terms of projection, but also in terms of rostering him. But yeah, I think it probably should be a little bit higher. You don't have a ton of value today, which, at least at the moment, which again makes it, more difficult to get to him. But raw projections just become so difficult to make up on these 2-game slates as well. And you do have cheap enough guys on Boston. It's not like 3K type value, but you have that Boston team that's just underpriced across the board. You do have some cheap pieces on the Pels that we'll get to. You potentially have value on Denver, depending on Jokic. So, getting to Giannis here and just, taking the 56, 57 DraftKings points is, I think, pretty appealing. And then, just kind of hoping that you land on the right, less expensive pieces.
Yeah, right now I'm more than 2xing the field at that number. I'm very happy to get to him. And it's got one other sort of good point to me. We've got that Q tag on Jokic. And if my downside is just, oh shit, I've got, I basically just took my Jokic and turned it into Giannis and locked that in early. On the off chance that Jokic ends up not playing, I feel a lot better about the decision to get to Giannis early. So I'm happy that it's happening the way that it is. If I have way too much Giannis for today, I'll take my chances given the Q tag on Jokic, because I think that's a real Q tag.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. So, and it also gives you the potential to late swap to some good stuff too.
Absolutely. So to me, he stands out as the best option. Just got to avoid the Tatum monster, I guess, on the opposite side. How are you feeling about Brook here at 7K?
He's probably the second best play from Milwaukee for me, and that's reflected in ownership and optimal percentage as well. 20% ownership, 20% chance of being optimal. It's just a very fair price tag for him. He's been playing really, really well, but also this is just a different slate than usual because you don't have the same level of opportunity cost at center. You may or may not have Jokic. You have Joval, but we don't know. I mean, his playing time, always is kind of up in the air, and his salaries come up. For Boston, you have Robert Williams, but Al Horford isn't even center only. You can play him at power forward. So you don't have nearly as much opportunity cost at center on the slate, and it is going to make it easier to get to Lopez.
What do you want to do here with the rest of this team? We saw Holiday's price come back up. Middleton is active now. There's no ownership coming into Milwaukee. Do you see anybody that should be getting it?
Not really. I think that outside of just saying, it's a 2-game slate, Drew Holiday's really good, Chris Middleton's really good, that kind of, take, I don't think that it's very easy to get to these guys because, just thinking about it in context of this game alone, Jaylen Brown is priced right between them. He's not playing with Giannis. Obviously he's playing with Tatum, but he's a higher usage guy than both Middleton and Holiday when Giannis is in. You have then all the other Boston guys that are just way less expensive. Marcus Smart coming in $3,000 less than Drew Holiday, White in that range, Brogdon in that range. And then thinking about wanting to get to Giannis or potentially Jokic and how far those $3,000 can go. So I think it's a lot more difficult to get to Drew and Middleton than it is probably to get to Giannis or Lopez.
Yeah, I'm with you. Hopefully people listened to us yesterday on the show. And listened to it more than I did, that's for sure, because Drew Holiday just absolutely went insane.
Yeah, I still ended up not really having him.
Yeah, same. I do wish that I could have flip-flopped him and Walker Kessler at the exact same salary yesterday. That would have helped me out quite a bit.
I did make the point on the show with Lofty this morning that I thought that was like a perfect example of something that I've been talking about all season long. Like we always focus on negative correlation, but there is positive correlation among teammates as well. Like, yes, there's only one ball to go around, but we always seem to focus on that. And it just, like, and I know I'm like it too. Like, I'm biased. If I look at a lineup and it's just like, oh, I'm paying, 7,500 or whatever for Drew and almost 12K for Giannis together against the Pacers, that feels bad. But there is positive correlation where sometimes games just shoot out, or you get, refs that have a quick whistle and you're just constantly getting to the line. Obviously, if games go to overtime, that benefits guys as well. So there's just another example of something that I think has really been showing up a lot this year. I don't know if it's because we've been having, in general, we have so many blowouts. So when you can get a bunch of guys from a game that stays competitive, that's nice. Or if it's just that, we're just getting higher scoring games like you always do year over year. I don't know what it is, but it seems there's been a lot this year where it's just like, man, I would feel really uncomfortable playing those like two relatively expensive guys or those three guys together, and they're all just destroying their salaries. So it was just another example of it that stood out yesterday.
And in that example for Milwaukee, getting to Giannis and Drew, I mean, they are the two people on the team that are driving, like 90% of their offense over a 48-minute game. Like, there's not a lot of other guys on the team outside of Portis when Middleton is out that are going to really have like a say in the matter.
Right.
Those two guys smashing on the same day against a terrible Pacers team, not as crazy as it should look to anybody.
Right. It just ends up being a question of like, do the Pacers make them play the fourth quarter?
Exactly. I was hoping the answer was they don't make them play the second quarter after I saw the original one. You were just
when
like,
Giannis triple-doubled in the first half, I kind of was hoping they would just wave the white flag then.
I did. That's for sure.
Yeah.
All right. If you needed to take a stand on anybody else from Milwaukee, who would be that next guy up for you? Obviously not in the non-Giannis Lopez division.
Grayson.
Yeah, he's the guy that I have. So I have the third most guy that I have is Drew, and then it's Grayson Allen, 4,700.
Did you see his dunk yesterday?
Sure didn't.
You need to find his dunk from yesterday. One, I don't know how he didn't get hurt. And two, I had no idea he could do what he did.
Oh, yeah. He's got real ups.
Yeah, well, I don't know who it was on, but he threw it down on someone, like ridiculous dunk, and then got just like smacked out of the air. And I really don't know how he didn't get hurt.
I'll have to check it out. Yeah, the only real problem here with Milwaukee is that like the guys that you want to get value out of, Ingles, Connaughton, Carter, are priced up. We're not squeezing any of these guys out in like the 3K range. Javon Carter's 4,900. I don't really know how you do that at a full strength team. Pat Connaughton's 4,300, but he seems very limited from a minutes perspective when they're at full strength. Ingles had been playing increased minutes. Those minutes have gone away now. He's playing like 20 to 22 each night. I'm not expecting to see Jay Crowder out there for anything significant. He's 3,800. Are there any sneaky plays here coming from Milwaukee? They seem very hard to talk about.
It's really difficult, and it really stands out, I think, when you compare them to the other side of this game, because you've had enough injuries to this team lately where, like you said, you have Carter priced up. It would be kind of a different conversation if Javon Carter were like 3,600 and you wanted to play the like, let's try and get lucky with foul trouble or something, or Javon Carter, makes all of his threes. But at 4,900, like, what possibly happens in this game for Javon Carter to end up being a good play at that price? Obviously, I'm sure we're going to find out tonight, but it's like, I can't even imagine what happens. Like, he projects for 2 times his salary here. Connaughton, at 4,300 projecting for 3x. Like, it's just so difficult to get to anything like that. Bobby Portis, you can at least make the case, like, what if Lopez gets in foul trouble? We know Bobby Portis is playing more minutes then, and he's a really good point per minute guy, but you're still paying nearly $7,000 for that, which is really, really difficult. Allen and Ingles, I think, end up being the ones, and to a lesser extent, Connaughton, end up being the ones where at least there's some semblance of like rotational roulette there, where if one of them gets hot, Allen can lose minutes to Ingles or vice versa, or Connaughton can just end up being the guy in any given game. And none of them are getting much ownership. So those three, at least, like from a tournament standpoint, I can at least stomach getting to some of them. I don't even know how to make like the bull case for somebody like Javon Carter at 4,900.
Yeah, I don't think you can. This is a weird one because they seem like a really interesting team to pay up to be contrarian for. But the problem is when you pay up to be contrarian, there's no value anywhere else to offset that. You can't, you're immediately then playing like Dyson Daniels to try to save money. I'm just like picking random dudes that I don't think are probably getting any ownership. There's no random like $3,800 guy that unlocks that for you. So you're just paying up to make your lineup incrementally worse. Whew. Yeah. Alrighty. I got nothing else here for the Bucks. Excited to watch this first game, that's for sure. But from a DFS perspective, the Bucks are going to be a tough sell. What's not a tough sell, though? Signing up at Sorare. They are the sponsor of this show. One, Sorare wants you guys to hit the like button. That is a very helpful thing. But two, you guys should just go check it out. There's going to be a link in the description, probably a link in chat as well. This is going to be a future experience for you guys. Don't overthink this. Don't see that it's an NFT-based product and think you should run away from it or think it's some sort of scam. It is not that. This has existed for a couple of years at this point as a soccer product. It stepped into the baseball area last year and to the NBA now. If you use the link in the description, sign up for a new Sorare account, you will get one free limited card after you complete your first 5 card purchases on the primary market. We run Sorare shows as well, so make sure you're checking out our content for that. You can purchase these cards in the marketplace, or you can win them as rewards for where you finish in a tournament. Think about it like if you could buy your individual players for, DraftKings and FanDuel, but you get to keep them on a week-to-week basis if you want. Prices will ebb and flow. If guys go on a heater, you can sell off that card and make a little bit of profit. All of these are different mechanisms for you. It's not necessarily just the contest. You could become a incredible buyer and seller of these cards. The limited cards are 1 out of 5,000. Everything's tracked on the Ethereum blockchain, so you'll know exactly how many cards are in circulation. There's no question marks here. All of this data is readily available for you. As you use cards, they gain XP. There's all different facets of this game, but ultimately it boils down to this. If you want to play it as a fantasy product, it is out there for you. We've got Sorare projections at Stochastic as well. I love what this looks like. I think this is the future, or at least part of the future of a fantasy product. I think you guys should get in now while you can.
Robert Williams and Grant Williams both in.
Oh, well, that's fun. Kinda. I don't really know what I wanted to happen there. I guess in. I just want this game to be a good game, so let's just say in.
I do know that I am much less excited to do baseball content based on just how YouTube chat right now. Like,
dude, how many division titles is Zach Greinke won? Stinks, man.
I was already kind of thinking earlier, but this is I feel for you more now because I know you follow basketball the way I follow baseball.
Yeah.
And like it gets under your skin so much with takes. Like it's blowing my mind right now.
It's insane. Hey guy that plays 18% of the team's games over the course of the season. Can you please affect the division odds more for the other 120 games that you don't play in? What do you want to do? What are you supposed to do there as Zach Greinke? You win every single start and have no bearing whatsoever on making the playoffs.
Right. And it's the same for hitters. Like you're 1 out of 9 guys in a lineup. Like,
yeah.
Like I hate the conversation with basketball when it's, like I hate the rings conversation in basketball, but at least in basketball, like you can have the ball every single possession. Like baseball, you aren't pitching every day. You're not playing, a position. If you're pitching, you don't get to take every at bat.
Yeah, I'm sure the Angels would love to just bat Trout, then Ohtani, then Trout, then Ohtani. Right. And anytime they get on, they use ghost runners. Yeah. At least we're on the exact same spot here.
Yeah, man. DeGrom's another perfect example.
Yeah, it's insane. It's truly insane.
It actually kind of sucks. If you're thinking about it, most of the best players of our generation have been on shitty teams.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's been like an epidemic for a very long time. Right. Even all the way back to like A-Rod. like pre-Yankees, I mean, with the giant conversation was like, the Texas Rangers can't field a team around A-Rod's massive 10-year, $250 million deal. And it's like, unbelievable. Well,
yeah, I mean, like Kershaw's at least been on good teams, but then you've had the really annoying conversations about his playoff performances. But like,
at least that's a real, like I don't totally buy into it, but I will accept an argument that he has like failed on his own.
Yeah, I don't buy it, but I will at least accept that you can have a different opinion than me on that, like on whether or not you buy it. But yeah, I mean, like it sucks. Like Trout's never really had any chances in the postseason. Ohtani hasn't yet. DeGrom has always been on the Mets.
Yeah, it's a bummer, man. It's a real bummer. That's baseball for you. I don't know what the answer to that is. Like, I guess there isn't one, and there never will be one. But you know, we're 20 plus years in the Moneyball now, so people are getting it more and more, I think.
Yeah. Ask Aaron Judge. Aaron Judge was dog shit all postseason last year, and the entire like last month of the season.
He went yard today, didn't he?
First at bat. Yeah.
Gotta love it. Gotta love it.
Rutschman, first swing home run.
I knew he went yard.
5 hits. First or the only catchers ever like reach base 5 times and hit a home run on opening day were like him, Yogi Berra, Todd Hundley, and Veritek.
Is Greinke going to make the Hall of Fame?
I don't know. I was trying to think about that as we were talking.
65.5 WAR. That's a lot.
I have a really bad gauge for like I've given up on trying to guess who gets into the Hall of Fame because it's so skewed now towards like he was never accused of being on steroids, so that's good. I don't really know like if we're still going by wins, then no, but I assume we've gotten beyond that. Like he probably should. Cy Young winner, 6 Gold Gloves, 6-time All-Star. I don't know how much they weight like hitting, but he could absolutely rake also.
Yeah. Most similar pitcher on Baseball Reference, Curt Schilling. Most similar pitcher through age 38, Verlander.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Schilling's not in, right? But that's mostly because he's an asshole.
I don't even know anymore. It doesn't appear that he's in based on what I'm seeing on the screen. Mike Mussina in. He's the number 5 comp. I
was thinking Mussina was a decent comp.
But like when it comes to who's in and who's out, who gives a shit at this point in time? The 2 main people that should be in aren't in and won't be in. So
also working in Greinke's favor is the anti-Schilling argument. Like he is a really engaging. Well, not engaging is not the right word. He's like very aloof, but he's a character and in a enjoyable way.
Very true. Let's see. He in Jaws, he's basically like right at the line of like your average Hall of Famer based on Jaws. So yeah, which makes sense to me. It's crazy how long he's been around.
Yeah, since I was like 14.
2004.
He took time off, right?
He did, but I don't. 4, 5, 6,
2006, because he had like anxiety issues.
Yeah. Good for him. I don't mean for having anxiety issues. I mean for like having a Hall of Fame level career. I know that one sounded pretty weird. You can't say 100% anybody's a Hall of Famer at this point in time. You know, it's all a sham.
Yeah, I've completely stopped caring about the Baseball Hall of Fame, but I've never had a good feel for like what pitchers are going to get in anyway. Because for so long, 300 wins was like a must, and then Mussina, Mussina and I think Blyleven like ended that, but it's still. I have a much better gauge for like what hitters should get in at least.
Once Jack Morris got in, I knew that I would never care about it again.
Don't even know who that is.
Pitcher, he was on the Twins. He threw the game, the World Series game against. Morris? What did I say?
Jeff.
No, there's no way I said Jeff.
It sounded like Jeff.
No. If you would have told me that I said John Morris, that wouldn't have surprised me because that is a name of someone in my life. So like. I can see myself doing that. No chance.
I mean, it's entirely possible I misheard you, but I heard Jeff Morris and I was like, I have no idea who this person is.
No, but I mean, Jack Morris is like the biggest black eye in the history of the Hall of Fame. So that one really makes me incredibly angry. Ugh. Yuck. Pelicans 5.5 point dogs in Denver. Not much to say here on the New Orleans side. Everybody that's normally available is available. Jeff Morris works at Home Depot.
Yeah, Harold Baines definitely. And like I'm a Baines fan because of being an Orioles fan, but just no business being in the Hall of
Fame. Pelicans are basically just the Celtics for today. 32, 36, 26, 26, 23, 27, 23 ownership percentages. Larry Nance at 11%, who we should probably have a conversation about because to me, that's the guy that I want to get most over the field on. Let's start at the top, though. $8,900 Brandon Ingram, 31% owned. How do you feel about paying up for Ingram today?
I like getting there if you can. Similar price tag to Jaylen Brown, but we've just seen him play out of his mind since coming back from his injury. It's not just the scoring and the high usage rate, but he's getting a ton of assists as well. More potential assists over that stretch than CJ McCollum, more actual assists. I didn't go all the way back to the beginning of the stretch, but I know over his last 5, he has more assists than McCollum in 4 of those 5. He's just doing everything offensively. It's not just scoring, and you're getting big minutes from him as well. You've had a lot of blowouts mixed in, but in competitive games, you're likely getting around 38, 39 minutes. So I think he looks really good. I think that salary or that ownership rather is warranted.
Yeah, I think he looks totally reasonable. I just look at these guys a lot like Boston. I have a hard time separating anyone individually from the pack. I kind of want to get to a little bit of everything here. Let's just have the major conversation because this is the only real talking point that I think we have for the Pelicans that requires any context. Joe Val is 7,600 projected for 23.5% ownership. Larry Nance is 3,600 power forward center projected for 11. That feels really weird to me. That just seems oddly low, especially after seeing him get the minutes on Tuesday. Now, he doesn't necessarily have to get those minutes again. There's no telling what's going to happen in this one. But if I'm making any stand, it's getting to Larry Nance. And as of right now, I have 0 shares of Joe Val.
Yeah, I agree with you because of the lack of ownership. And this was one spot that I'd pointed out on the strategy show this morning that the projected ownership on Nance was going to have a huge impact on what I thought we should do with him because I still don't think there's a lot we can take away from that last game. The only thing I'm comfortable taking away from the rotation last game is Larry Nance physically can play 25 minutes. We didn't really know if he could or not. We knew that Golden State was a matchup where Larry Nance made a lot of sense, but we didn't know how he was doing physically, if the Pelicans were even willing to play him a bunch of minutes, and they obviously were. But now you get a matchup against Denver where it's not Golden State, and they very easily could just go back to giving Joe Val a ton of minutes. But at least we know Larry Nance can play those minutes. And we also know that earlier in the year, it didn't matter who you were playing. It hasn't been there's Joe Val games and there's Nance games this year. It's been there's Joe Val games pretty much regardless of matchup recently outside of the most recent game. But earlier in the year, it was Larry Nance was closing against like everybody. And you were getting 23 minutes from Joe Val, 25 from Nance. Didn't really matter who they were playing. So there's some chance that it was Golden State was kind of a coincidence, and it just coincided where Nance was also just ready to come back and play a bunch of minutes. I think the matchup certainly helped that happen, but there's some chance that you just kind of look at that Golden State game and then going forward, it's, oh, well, now Larry Nance is back to playing low, at least like low 20s minutes every game. And if that's the case, at 3,600, he looks really good, especially because he's only getting 11% ownership. It's not like people are flocking to him and, because you are running a very real risk of 15 minutes for Nance, 33 for Joe Val. And, you don't want Nance. But with that lack of ownership on this slate, I'm fine just hoping you get those minutes.
Not going to read into these game logs at all. 3 games this season against Denver. Here are the minutes played for Jonas Valanciunas in all 3. 14, 18, 19. Not going to lie. A matchup against Nikola Jokic is about as bad as it gets for someone like Joe Val because he can't be everywhere at once. And the way that Nikola Jokic passes, he can put the ball wherever he wants at all times. So I think the matchup is fantastic for getting more Larry Nance today too. That is another reason that I'm, pretty happy about it. I went 28-19 on minutes. I don't feel very comfortable with that. I don't have a clue really what to do with Larry Nance at this point, but it's the only spot that I can find value to be different. And I think it plays into the game script. So that is the move that I'm making. Whether it works or not, we'll see.
Yeah, I think it's fine. And really even like matchup agnostic, like your points, I think make a ton of sense, but even matchup agnostic, just looking at the ownership, it's just like, I have no idea what the Pels. I have no real good feel for what the Pels center rotation is going to be right now. If Larry Nance were pulling 40% ownership and Joval were like 10, I would love playing Joval here. But that's not the case. And we're on a slate where Robert Williams is getting 30% ownership at 4,100 and could very easily play like the same minutes as Nance or less. Grant Williams is like your other alternative in that price range. I'll take my chances on Nance.
I would be, I think I'm even more nervous about someone like Jackson Hayes just showing up today just because of how much he has not been in the rotation. Today just feels like the day that he's going to go out there and play like 16 minutes so that they can actually get some defense out there. But I don't know. I can't really talk anybody into that. What else do you see from the Pelicans? How do you want to handle Murphy and Jones, Jay Rich, Najee Marshall? Because all these guys are like 25% owned.
Yeah, I think you mentioned it at the beginning that they are sort of the Celtics. But it's like the Celtics, you had the 5K guys. Here you have like the sub 5K guys. So you have Herb Jones pulling 26%, Josh Richardson at 28%, Najee at 23%. And they're all just they're not guys that you would even really consider on a normal size slate. But tonight they're just opening it up so that you can get to Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Giannis, maybe Jokic, whoever. So you're still likely to be getting low 20s from Josh Richardson. Hopefully like upper teens from Najee Marshall. Only played 13 last game, but typically you're at least getting like 17, 18 from him. Herb Jones, you're typically getting low to mid 30s in minutes. He's a little bit more expensive at 4,800, but you're getting some pretty solid value plays there. And they're not guys that you typically feel good about, but here they're just going to help you round out your lineups.
I asked you the same question about Boston. I'm going to ask it here. Do you see any natural groups, at least to limit, having Marshall, Richardson, Jones, and Murphy type lineups, right? Like that's just one random thing. But did you see any groups that naturally come up here?
Probably if you wanted to do Joval Nance, I think you could. Yeah. I don't think you have to on a 2 games. Well, I guess obviously you could. I don't think you have to on a 2 game slate. And the reason I don't think you have to is that you could get, let's say Joval plays 30 minutes and Nance plays 18. You could conceivably get Joval scoring enough points in 30 minutes that you want him, and Nance scoring enough points that he is the best sub 4K guy. Yep. So that's why I don't think you have to set it. Certainly you could, though. Maybe a max 2 of like Jones, Richardson, Marshall, or a max 3 of like Murphy, Jones, Richardson, Marshall, something like that.
Okay. How do you feel about Dyson
maybe
Daniels?
Like a max two of like Richardson, Marshall, Daniels.
Okay. How do you feel about Daniels? 3,200, pulling about 7% ownership. Is there anything there for you?
Not that I feel comfortable with, but the thing I would point out is like last game, excluding garbage time, he played about 9 minutes. Najee Marshall played about 12. You're getting like 3-to-1 ownership gap. I think Najee Marshall is likely to play more minutes. I also think he's the better point per minute guy, but on a 2-gamer where it's very difficult to A, find value, and then B, be different, I don't think it's the craziest play. Just it's not going to work very often.
Just realized I don't think that either one of us have mentioned CJ McCollum today. 7,500, 36% owned. He is the most owned guy on the Pelicans. I just don't have anything to say about it.
Yeah, I'll just say I kind of hadn't said anything because I didn't have anything to say other than he looks fine. I do think that I am a little concerned about the role Ingram is playing. Brandon Ingram is basically just carrying this team right now. And McCollum's still good. He's still playing, he's still fine. He's still playing big minutes. He's 7,500, but I am a little skeptical just that, Brandon Ingram is really the guy.
Anything else for the Pels?
No.
All right, folks, hit that like button. One more team to go before we turn this one over to the NBA Live before Lock Crew. I do want to hit on the super chat that we got earlier from Cat's Body Double. So where's Cat's today? I need him to tell me, I assume, that you can't play the Bucks players because of potential blowout like yesterday. He's not here because I don't want him to be. Pretty easy like that. Something much better than Cats, the NBA lineup generator. 50% off for your first week. It's going to be $4.48. If you don't like it, cancel anytime during that first week. Your worst case scenario, you're out $4.48. We handle all of the lineup generation on the back end. Then we get rid of all of the lineups that we think stink. Then we present them all to you. If you like one, click save. If you don't, click discard. Another one pops right up. You can generate chalky lineups, balanced lineups, contrarian lineups. You can lock a player. You can swap players around if you want. Export up to 20 via CSV. This is going to be the easiest way for you to get better at DFS. We've had multiple people using the lineup generator, tweet at us, end up in the Hall of Fame, saving themselves a lot of time and creating themselves a lot of additional money. So if you guys want to test it out, again, sub $5, you'll waste less than $5 on something else. I'm positive of it. Go check out the lineup generator. Perfect time to do so. Coming down the home stretch for the NBA season. Let's talk Denver, at least as much as we can for right now. There is a big piece of news hanging in the balance. That would be a Q tag on Nikola Jokic. Vlatko Cancar also questionable. Peyton Watson questionable. That should not matter. And this is another Boston team. Here is the ownership for Denver. 33, 32, 36, 36, 39, 46 on Bruce Brown, plus another 20 on Jeff Green and 14 on Christian Brown. All these guys look similar, and I don't really see a scenario where I don't agree. This is a very difficult slate if Nikola Jokic is in.
Yeah, the one thing that stands out to me that I would point out if Jokic is in, I think Jeff Green makes sense. I think Christian Brown makes sense. The ownership gap you're getting between them and somebody like Larry Nance is another reason I think Nance is so interesting. Even Dyson Daniels would be another one, like getting less than half the ownership of Jeff Green when there's the potential for them to play the same minutes. So that's something that I would point out is that I think Green and Brown are probably going a little bit over-owned relative to the similar versions on the Pels, but I don't have any problems with their salaries. They're too cheap for this slate. Jokic, if he's in, clearly happy to get there. You don't really have any opportunity cost at center today. He is basically the opportunity cost at center. So if you're playing him, it doesn't really matter too much. So if you can get there, great. Gordon, Murray, Porter, Brown, KCP, all just good plays at those salaries.
Completely agree. I have basically 50% of Murray, KCP, Porter, Gordon, and Bruce Brown. And I don't really see a way around it. I am under the field. What's up? Me?
No, I'm just trying to figure out what the hell that message means.
Who knows? I am under the field on Jokic without having to make any changes for it. That makes me at least a little bit happy. I am getting to Christian Brown, 3,100 shooting guard, small forward. I see the reason it's happening. I'm going to ask you the same question that I asked for all these other teams, or at least for Boston and for the Pelicans. Are there groups here that you think are viable?
I mean, there's definitely not anything that you have to set on a two-gamer. Okay. Like max 1 of Jokic Najee or max 2 of Jokic Green Najee would make some sense.
Okay.
But I don't think it's also flexible enough. Like you expect Najee to be the backup to Jokic, but like if Aaron Gordon gets in foul trouble, it's unlikely, but like you could get a case where Green and Najee are both, good 3K plays and Jokic is still fine.
Yeah.
So like, again, I don't think you have to set any.
Okay. Yeah. I don't really see anything. Is there any integration with Bruce Brown plus the starting 5 where you're trying to limit that in any way?
I don't really think so, just because I think Brown can play enough minutes off the bench without closing that he's still fine.
Yeah. 29, 29, and 29 in his last 3.
Yeah.
All right. Well, this is the one that we actually have to talk about, though. What do we do here if Nikola Jokic is ruled out?
So first off, I don't know who starts in his place. We've had Zeke Najee backing him up recently, but it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me if Najee just moved into the starting lineup. It wouldn't surprise me if they just throw Thomas Bryant into the starting lineup. It wouldn't surprise me if they go Jeff Green. I think DeAndre Jordan is still on the team and a potential option as well. But Thomas Bryant in particular is the one where I just wouldn't be surprised. They're like, all right, we're going to keep Najee in the backup role. We're going to throw Thomas Bryant in there. So You're going to get a cheap dude starting in place of Nikola Jokic. Don't know who it would be. But then also you're getting increased production from everybody else because you're talking about taking away a high usage guy who also, leads the team in assist opportunities. So you're getting more for Murray, more for Porter, more for everybody. So it just makes this team, they're already one of the most appealing teams on the slate. If Jokic is out, this is the best spot to get to. And it becomes tricky because you have to make that decision on Boston probably before you get Jokic news.
Yes, you do. As weird as it sounds, if you lose Jokic, it's like going to pretty dramatically increase your Pelicans exposure too, just because salary then becomes
right
free. Like you've just got so much left over that like you're probably getting to more McCollum / Ingram right out of the gate. Joval probably gets an increase in ownership by default, which in a weird way, like I'm happy about.
Right. Yeah, I was going to say, I don't think that you necessarily need to like be saving roster spots because you're just naturally going to get so much of this game anyway, with it being a 2-game slate. But it is a situation where like Ingram is a really good play right now, but you do still have to weigh him against Jokic, and that makes it, somewhat difficult to get to. If you get Jokic ruled out between the Boston game starting and the Denver game starting, then it's just going to be a lot of like, oh, well, I'm just going to move, Herbert Jones down to Jeff Green, and then I'm going to turn, somebody into Brandon Ingram.
Yeah, Michael Porter Jr. becomes Brandon Ingram, or whatever or KCP at this point, honestly, because you're going to be saving thousands.
Right.
It does become a very, very interesting mechanism. I don't want to if this Jokic news comes out, I want it after 7:30, especially with the exposures that I have right now.
CW said, is Bryant the highest ceiling guy out of all the backups if he got the minutes? Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, if he's starting, I mean, you're playing.
If Thomas Bryant is starting, you're playing as much as you can. If Zeke Naji is starting, like he's a good value, but it's still Zeke Naji. Like he's not near the same level of production as Thomas Bryant.
I mean, he becomes like a 40% owned dude for the Nuggets at that point in time. But if Thomas Bryant is starting, that one's even bigger. Man, that Jokic news is really, really big. Is there anything else we should be touching on here for Denver?
I don't really think so. I don't think so either.
We worked our way through Boston, Milwaukee, the Pelicans, and the Nuggets. We have 255 likes, 1,500 people in here right now, but I think we are at that point where we can turn it over to the live before lock crew. Thank you to Sorare for sponsoring this show. You guys are going to get another hour and a half of content. If you're playing baseball tonight, there's a really good night slate coming up, so keep your eyes on that one. I'm coming for that number 1 spot for the night slate, so we'll see how that shakes out. Adam, any final thoughts before we leave?
Not about basketball, no.
There we go, then. Thank you guys for joining us. Stick around. Don't go anywhere. Hit the like button in the interim. We are out of here. Live before lock coming up next.
Yo, what's going on, everybody? We're back for yet another edition of the Stochastic Hall of Fame, where we give away some wonderful free months of Stochastic Plus Platinum, $120 value, and we brag for you. Do all the bragging for you, get you inducted into the Hall of Fame. Right here, we do this every single week in between all of the shows, so make sure you never miss it. All you got to do, download the Stochastic profile picture at stochastic.com/avatar. Finish top 3 in a field of 5,000 or more, and tweet your wins at Stochastic HOF to get inducted and to get that free month. And remember, doesn't matter if you're entering the quarter art jukebox, the nickel, $1, $20, doesn't matter what the entry is, as long as it's a field of 5,000 or more and you finish top 3, you're in, free month and inducted. Let's make it happen. Kick it off with Jackson Blake. Monster win here. Jackson says, I want to thank the Stochastic team for all they do. Tools are top-notch, and they've helped me become a better player over the years. Keep up the good work. $50,000 in the fadeaway, taking down first place. Huge win, Jackson. And our own Brian Berryman. To think I almost didn't play Corrales. LFG, $10,000, third place, little PGA action in the 200K pitch and putt. How about Salty Whale, too? Thanks for the deeper dive videos and ownership projections. I picked up a 1% DeRozan, turned 4 in the 3,000. I got second on Friday and cashed out. I mean, this is almost more impressive than anything. $4 in the $3,000. Huge stuff for our buddy Salty Whale. That's a big win. And SZ, how about Sean Zahn, right? Now, I love this because he says nothing beats making money betting on something you know nothing about, absolutely nothing about. I say it all the time, right? You could use these tools, go into it, use them to guide you. You don't really need to know some of these sports. Sean used the Odds Shopper tool. I assume the Parlay tool, Parlay Builder tool. First week free, by the way, over at oddshopper.com. And netted $21,000 on, admittedly, pretty large wager, but a massive round robin win for Sean using the Parlay Builder tool on a sport he knows nothing about. Gotta love it. And Michael Campbell, shout out to Awesemo YouTube channel. Stochastic now, but you're forgiven. Change that avatar, brother. $600, 12K mini max, second place to Michael Campbell. Congrats, man. And ship happens. How about this? Didn't finish first, but a great win. Hopefully I get my Hall of Fame, love Stochastic Hall of Fame, and my free month. Didn't get it last time. I mean, who thought it'd be a good idea to put this up here? In all seriousness, though, I talked to this guy the other day. He's been in contact with customer service. He's getting his free month. He will attest to that. Thanks to the Stochastic crew and a big win. Third place in the 30K and 120 entry max. Congratulations, Ship. And yes, we got you covered. Do not worry. Joe, always nice turning 25 cents into $200. Again, massive ROI. Thanks to the Stochastic.com lineup generator. Yeah. Appreciate all y'all do. So uncomfortable saying the word y'all, but congrats, man. Second place in the NBA fadeaway, followed by Ben P. Projections do it again. Matt Kajeski's projections do it again. Third top 3 in 7 NCAA tournament slates. Huge. $212 in the 6K mini max. And Michael M., right entry in the wrong field, but second nonetheless. Put me in that Stochastic Hall of Fame. You're here, brother. Second place, $500 there. And Eric Carl, always play NBA, rarely NHL, but no matter the contest I enter, I always watch live before lock and get my advice from you. Came close many times, but tonight I'm in the Hall of Fame. Hell yeah. Oh, what a great feeling that must be. Congrats, dude. Third place in this one as well. Quarter jukebox, like I said, still free month. And our boy Emac. How about Emac? Thanks to Stochastic. Had a great night with the Prize Picks Flex Friday promo between the projections, Eric Lindquist's recommendation in the betting Discord, and the free NBA building blocks article. A little self-endorsement there by Emac. Great article, though. Everything fell into place for a cool $500. 6 picks, $20 entry, $500 for Emac. And we rounded out with the game 007. Picked up a top 3 showing and some decent change in the late night jukebox to push a little in the NBA these last few weeks after retooling the approach and getting the mojo before whatever that says. Congrats to all of you guys. Welcome to the Stochastic Hall of Fame. Now been inducted. Go collect your free months, and we'll see you back here for the next one. Peace.
What is going on, everybody? It is time for Stochastic NBA Live Before Lock. Now, I know a lot of the attention has been on baseball on opening day, which we've been excited about. I played a bunch of baseball lineups. They actually going fairly well for me. Neil, I know you did the baseball show earlier with Alex. You almost forget that we had a basketball show to do tonight. And it's a slate that's easy to look past. It's 2 games. It's a total disaster because Jokic is questionable in the final game of the night. So we're going to have to work through that hurdle over the course of the show. We're sponsored by Sorare today, so we could also, in the post-lock show, we're going to build out some lineups on Sorare from Neil's account, which is always fun. I really do enjoy when you and I do that together, Neil, and build out the lineups. I have fun with that. So I am looking forward to that for sure. And in the meantime, we're going to be talking about this basketball slate. Ask us questions, guys. We're going to be able to answer them. And it doesn't just have to be about NBA today. There's only 2 games. You want to ask us about life? You want to ask us about baseball, whatever it may be. Throw that into YouTube chat. Throw it in Discord. We'll hit up some of your guys' questions for sure. But Neil, how is your day going?
It's going okay. My baseball lineups are looking okay. I've got some that are like I think I've got some as of now. I still have some sweats going. I have one that is currently 54th in the 20 max with 12 player innings remaining. So looking okay. Enjoy doing a show with Alex. Always a pleasure. Talking to arguably the greatest DFS player of all time. Always pretty fun for me. And yeah, it's fun just getting going in baseball season. I'm excited about it. How about you?
Yeah, so I had some live Orioles stacks. I needed a little bit more out of who was it that I needed? Let me pull up some of my lineups right here. Because I remember I had to sweat one of my lineups. I was watching upstairs with my brother, and it was Gunnar Henderson. I needed to do something when he came up to bat in the 8th inning because my main Orioles stack, or my best Orioles stack, I should say, it has Adley Rutschman. It has Mountcastle in it. It has Mateo, who's got over 20 fantasy points, hitting 9th. It's got Cedric Mullins, who's leading off. He is over 20 fantasy points. And Henderson comes up in the 8th inning after Mountcastle doubles, flies out to the warning track. So I had that brief amount of hope where the ball left the bat and didn't ultimately come to fruition. But yeah, it's been profitable so far. I have a bunch of Juan Soto as a one-off, so that should help. Hopefully, some of my lineups early. I don't expect to have any lineups that finish like top 10 or top 20 or anything like that in the $15 on DraftKings, but it looks like I'm going to be profitable. Played a bunch of Garrett Cole today, played a bunch of Shane McClanahan. That worked out well. I've got a lot of Orioles stacks going. So hopefully everything ends up coming together. And who knows, maybe I get lucky and Juan Soto goes totally nuts today. And that helps out some of those lineups go over the top in terms of some of the Orioles stacks I have with Soto as a one-off. But what were some of the pitfalls for you today for baseball?
That's a good question. I have not looked at it closely. So I immediately ended the baseball show and immediately had to do the run sheet and then record high stakes. And then I had to write my basketball article. And then I went on a little run on the treadmill. So to be honest, I have not looked closely at the actual pitfalls. I'm pretty sure I did play some Max Fried. So obviously that was a pitfall. I had one lineup that was a 5-man Orioles stack that was looking pretty good. And I pivoted to a lineup that I thought was a little like I hand pivoted to off of DeGrom and somebody else onto a Aaron Nola lineup, which so I kind of crushed myself with a pivot there. I guess that was a little bit of a pitfall, letting myself get into my process and pivot to a different stack and different pitchers. But yeah, I don't know all of the pitfalls, to be honest. Overall, I'm looking okay. I'm down about I'm 380 in, 280 out right now, but I think there's some upside. I think I could end up with a profitable day.
Yeah, so we'll see what ends up happening with the rest of that. Maybe if something crazy happens, we could look at some of the baseball games and maybe do like a live play-by-play. I'll tell you guys what's happening because I've got the games up on my iPad in front of me as well as we're doing this show. And this is a really interesting basketball slate. So we'll start talking about that now as well. I know it's what most of you guys are here for. You don't give a shit about our baseball lineups. I'm sure a couple of you do, but by the majority, I'm sure you don't. But what are we going to do with this basketball slate today, Neil? And other than Sorare, the part after the show, we've got that set in stone. We're going to build Sorare lineups. And if you guys haven't signed up at Sorare yet, use the link we have below, because when you use that link to sign up at Sorare, after you purchase 5 limited player cards, you're going to get a 6th for free. And Sorare, this is a collectible card game that you play DFS contests in. You win some really rare and cool prizes, and some of them end up being really, really valuable. The one that I like to reference is the Giannis Antetokounmpo, which about a month and a half ago now or so, there was the Giannis that somebody won in a contest, a 1-of-1, ended up selling for nearly $200,000 on the secondary market over at Sorare. So there are some cool prizes to be won there. And something that I've been working on also with Neil as well is in the very, very short future, like not too far in advance, we are going to be running some private leagues on Sorare where you guys could win some prizes like Stochastic Platinum memberships and some other prizes from Sorare themselves. So we're working on that. That is coming in the near future. Reason that you guys could sign up totally for free, make an account over at Sorare using that link we have below. But that's what we know we're doing today, Neil. We're going to be building Sorare lineups. What we don't know is whether Nikola Jokic is playing or not. And I want to walk people through how we're going to handle this pretty difficult situation. So just in general, what is your thought process with Nikola Jokic being questionable on a 2-game slate and him being in the later game?
Yeah, so I think that is our greatest source of differentiating ourselves here. Mm-hmm. Just trying to either build for Jokic to be, because Jokic is likely to be a little bit under-owned. Like people are going to, maybe not cut him out of their lineups, but they're going to limit their Jokic exposure, get to more Giannis as a result of Jokic being questionable. Giannis, obviously, much safer. So I think you could build that way. Just leave Jokic in your pool with exactly his projection, build around Jokic. I think the even more interesting way to build. So I think it's a sharp way to play. Just assume Jokic is in, build that way. Don't make any require any value to be with him when you play him, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's a totally great way to play. But then I also think the way I'm going to approach it is the exact opposite of that, which is I put Jokic projection at 0, gave bumps to everybody that I think will have bumps. And of course, this would be a better process if I did my own projections and could see exactly where I would give those bumps if I had that news. But I think that that's another way to build. Just I'm in Fantasy Cruncher. I am building out for no Jokic. So I gave bumps to everybody: Jamal Murray, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Michael Porter Jr., Bruce Brown, Jeff Green. The biggest bump, obviously, to Zeke Nnaji and Thomas Bryant. And just kind of, I built out for under the assumption that Jokic is at what is going to look good in that case, just because I think not many people are building to that extent, like thinking about it all the way through to it's a 2-game slate. I mean, you can't get too cute, to be honest, but this is my approach is just trying to build lineups for the event that Jokic is ultimately ruled out.
Yeah, and Rants in YouTube chat asked, who is getting late scratch from the game? Well, Jokic seems like a fairly likely one at this point, just considering what we know. Because if you look at the injury, the other thing too is Jokic is very rarely on the injury report. This to me really does set up as a game that he's not going to play in, right? The other thing too is I do have action against this. As soon as I saw the opening line, I bet the Pelicans plus 6.5. It looks like the market is speculating that Jokic is probably a little more likely to sit than play. The line has moved from 6.5 to 5.5. So do we want with that information? That is the way the betting market is moving, including where my dollars have gone on this. We've got Nikola Jokic is questionable. He's very rarely listed as questionable, and no other key players on the injury report. So Rance's question, who's going to be the late scratch day? I think we'd have to consider Jokic, who I also think is more likely to sit than play. And it seems like you're on the same page as me. I'm not going to say that with 100% confidence, but if you ask me to handicap it, I'd say like 75% Jokic sits. That's where I'm leaning in towards my confidence level. How confident are you that Jokic won't play?
Not at all. I'm not at all. Like I'm thinking like 55% or closer to 50%. It's really just a game theory thing that I don't think people are going to build that way. So it's not really me like thinking that I have some sort of inside knowledge. I think you're good at predicting this stuff. That's not really necessarily my strength unless I've read something in like what the coach said. Sometimes I can be like, okay, I read this way. Then I can get a feel. I don't have a great feel for whether Jokic is going to play. So I think you actually have a stronger feeling there than I do. But my thinking is also, if I build for Jokic being out and then Jokic is ultimately ruled in, it's not the end of it's a 2-game slate. Like it's unlikely that I'm not going to be able to still make a lineup that has a shot at cashing.
So here's the other side of this too, that I think we should be asking ourselves. Even if you're in a situation like yourself, you don't know, you're 50-50. You don't know whether Jokic is going to be in or not. Here's how I think the field is going to play it. And this is the worst possible way to play it. What I think the field is going to do is not want to roster Jokic and then also not give boost to other players on the Nuggets. That is the one thing you should not be doing, right? So what you guys want to be doing is you want to take a stand some sort of way, right? The worst thing you can do is you take Jokic out of the player pool and just build the lineups as is. You either want to build lineups with Jokic and assume he plays, or you're taking Jokic out and you're giving boosts to the other players. You have to think what makes your lineups make sense and what gives you upside. What I think you're doing if you just take Jokic out and then don't give boosts to the other Denver players, you're playing to finish like 50th percentile in GPPs, which you never want to do.
Yep.
And so then I think the other angle that we should look at, Neil, is what do you think is more upside? Planning for Jokic to be out or planning for Jokic to be in when you build your lineups? Which one of those two iterations do you think offers more upside to your lineups?
Planning for Jokic to be out. That's why I'm building for planning for Jokic to be out, even though in my mind, it's pretty close to 50-50 whether he plays. I was planning on doing it that way because I think there's more upside there because, if Jokic is in, like you don't get huge boost to anybody. Obviously you play Jokic in that case, or you can play Jokic in that case. But like nobody else really benefits. If you plan for Jokic being out, then you're going to get a lot more lineups that have like maybe both Giannis and Tatum, or like a lot of the high upside plays from the first game. So just building for Jokic being out, you get high upside plays from the first game. Then you also get the great value from the late game that's going to go under own. So I think for me, it's pretty easily just building for Jokic to be out has more upside. It's not even that I think that that's the more likely scenario, although it sounds like you do, which makes me think that maybe it is more likely that he sits. It was just that looking at how do I get the most upside? Where do I find the most edge? And to me, that is planning for Jokic to sit.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. And kind of an interesting question as well from Tolga A in YouTube chat, where he asked me, Why would I assume that people would do something like that? Just kind of a gut feel. Like there's nothing I could point to mathematically and be like, yeah, because of these numbers and this, I think this is what the field is going to do. It's just kind of based on me, the way that I view how a lot of people play DFS. And it seems like you're on the same side as me, Neil, in terms of the assumption you would make. And I think part of it is because it's probably how I would have played when I first started playing DFS, right? And I think that's really what encapsulates the majority of the field. I couldn't tell you exactly why I think that, Tolga. It's just how I think this situation, how the field is going to do it. Do you have a better way to vocalize what it is? It's more of a thing
because we have experience. It's because we have experience. I mean, intuition comes from experience. We've been playing DFS for a long time, and that's kind of, I think that's the biggest edge that is left in DFS. Like at this point, everybody has projections. Most people have optimizers. Like the edge that was there 5 years ago, based on just like knowing the numbers, isn't quite as strong anymore. The biggest edge that there is still left is that people overly rely on projections and optimizers and such. So anybody who's using a projection who isn't really thinking about it from a game theory perspective and isn't really tuned into, the possibility that Jokic is out, is just going to build for, like, the projections are all going to have Jokic in. So they're not going to account for what happens if Jokic is out. So people are just going to build their lineups for Jokic being in, but then maybe saying, oh, but I don't want to play Jokic because that's too risky because he might be out. That's just it's just based on experience and intuition as a result of experience.
Yeah, I think that is much better said than how I had said it, where I was just kind of like, I kind of just feel this certain way.
I mean, it's kind of the same thing,
but yeah, no. I think that's totally right. It's just experience from having done, I don't know how many of these shows I've done. I've done pretty much every single live before lock this year I've hosted, which was not the case in previous years. I always did a lot of them, but this year I'm doing them every single night, and I've been doing DFS content, for 6 years every day. So I think that's probably really where it comes from, is a lot of that experience. And we've got some super chats. We'll answer some of those. And then what I want to do after that, Neil, is let's look at some of the on-off court numbers for Jokic, and we'll try to figure out who some of those players are that we really want to drill down on in the event that Jokic is out. Yep. But first, your guys' super chats and some of the questions that you have for us, starting with Hannah Banana. And of course, Hannah wants to know about DK tiers. And this is another one that's super, super interesting, Neil. And I'm curious to hear your thoughts on it, because I knew we were going to get tiers questions, right? Because we always get our tiers questions these days. Tier 1, though, the options are Nikola Jokic, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Jason Tatum, and Brandon Ingram. This is as tough a decision point as you're going to have with anything today, because Jokic is going to have almost no ownership in tier 1. And if he's out, I don't want to play Brandon Ingram over Giannis and Tatum in a no salary type format. So my answer here is going to be Giannis, because I still believe that the most likely scenario here is that Jokic doesn't play. So that leads me to answer Giannis. But I'm curious, considering this information, Giannis, Tatum, Jokic, and Ingram, assuming we don't know if Jokic is in or out before the first game locks, if you were building one lineup, which of these guys would you go to?
Yeah, that is really interesting, because if I still thought it was 50%, like going into it, as we talked about, I don't really know if Jokic is going to play. It would 100% be Jokic. If it's 50-50 that he plays, it's definitely Jokic, because he is but first of all, he's the highest projected player on the slate by 5 fantasy points, like more than Giannis by 5 fantasy points. So just from a pure projection standpoint, if he plays, he's the best play. But on top of that, everybody's going to want to play Giannis and just get different elsewhere. Like Giannis, clearly, if Jokic sits, Giannis is going to be the highest projected play on the slate. You don't want to play anybody else over Giannis. So I suspect Jokic is going to be very low owned. The question is, do you think he's going to be less than 25%? I mean, you say you think there's a 25% chance that he plays. And if he does play, obviously he still doesn't necessarily become the highest scoring player on the slate. But I think that's kind of how owned do you think Jokic is going to be? Because if he's going to be 10% owned, I'd take that bet. I'd play Jokic in that spot. If we think he's still going to get up to 20%, maybe not quite as worth it.
It's tricky. So my answer here is going to be Giannis. That's who I'm going with, but it is not a cut and dry answer. This is in all of the tiers questions that we've gotten asked this year. And this is something that we get 1, 2, 3 super chats every single show now. This is the toughest answer I've had to give on any of them so far. My answer is going to be Giannis. If you want to be really contrarian, you could go with Jokic here, but it also doesn't really align with how it is that I'm viewing the rest of the slate, where I don't think Jokic is going to play. He's listed as question. We almost never see Jokic listed as questionable. So my read on the scenario is that Jokic isn't going to play. That leads me to answer Giannis. I mean, something else to consider too. There is a non-zero chance that Jokic sits, you land on Brandon Ingram because he's the only other swap point, and Ingram somehow outscores Giannis and Tatum.
Right. Yep. There is that scenario too. Yeah.
So I'm gonna say Giannis there, but it's an interesting one. There's a lot of different ways to look at the different scenarios you could play through the different strategies. I'm gonna say Giannis though. Tier 2, Jaylen Brown. Tier 3, and by the way, Jaylen Brown, I go Jaylen Brown over Jamal Murray, even if Jokic is out. I would still go Jaylen Brown just by a little bit there. Tier 3, CJ McCollum. Tier 4 is Aaron Gordon. And then it's already Aaron Gordon, especially Aaron Gordon if Jokic is out. Tier 5 is going to be Kentavious Caldwell-Pope for me. And then tier 6, I am landing on Robert Williams more than anybody else. And tier 6 is just not great options. It's Time Lord. So Robert Williams, then we got Josh Richardson, Najee Marshall, Joe Ingles. So not the best options in tier 6, but I do think Robert Williams offers the most upside. It's just his minutes become, a little bit unsure because of the different injuries he's had this year and how his role has changed. But with that said, the guys we are comparing Robert Williams to for tonight, once again, just to reiterate, it's, Josh Richardson, those types of guys. And I still am going to favor Williams over those kind of guys. So Hannah, I hope that helps you build out your tiers lineups. And yeah, tricky one there in tier 1, but I'm going to say Giannis should be your play there. Sam Van Dam, Neil, and then an angry emoji. I'll try to do it because it's part of the super chat.
That was good.
Okay, so that's the emoji. Neil, I am finding out there's an XFL Prem. PREM, what does that mean?
How am I just finding out there's an XFL Premium, I assume? I assume he means like an XFL Premium website, which I don't know because I don't know what you're talking. I don't know what the XFL Premium website channel is, whatever. I watch XFL on Hulu. Hulu has live sports, if you didn't know. I watch the XFL there, so I don't know about this XFL Premium that we're talking about. Maybe you can clarify. Oh, the premium package that we have. I don't know. I did a video on XFL a few weeks back. I did a long video, which now thankfully Matt Kajeski is back doing that video. Best in the game. Matt Kajeski does the projections. Yeah, we have a fantastic XFL premium package. Check it out, and you can find just like Kajeski's thoughts. He did it today. Posted a YouTube video on his thoughts on this weekend's XFL slate. So check that out. Yeah.
So I would say, assuming that is what you're talking about, Sam. The reason that you didn't find out is because you're not watching the XFL videos that Kajeski's doing. Go check those out. They're not that long in length, easy to digest. And Matt Kajeski, nobody knows more about basketball than this guy. He loves when people add him about basketball. He knows a lot about college football as well. Basketball, especially NBA, he really loves. But the other thing, too, is I'm telling you, Matt Kajeski, his XFL football, all football in general, there is not a Pop Warner game being played anywhere in the country that Matt Kajeski cannot give you a breakdown of all the players. So, Sam, go check out the videos that Kajeski's been doing for XFL. Let me see if there's any that pull up quickly on the YouTube channel I could just post in by searching it. If not, they're not hard to find. Just go to our channel and you'll find Matt Kajeski. You'll see his pretty face on the screen, him talking about XFL.
Jake Swell says XFL is like weird forced football. That is rude, Jake. Come on. XFL is a premium product.
And we've got Neil wearing, which, if I'm not mistaken, is an XFL hat right now.
This is my San Antonio Brahmas hat. Yes, it is. Go Brahmas. Brahmarama.
Is there a way that we could get you a hat for every single team in the league?
Not wearing some other team's hat. I'm a Brahmas fan.
But you get one on each. You get it on a display behind you or something.
Well, I have this hat. And this is Brahma's colors. My XFL hat in yellow is Brahma's colors. They have it in multiple colors for every team. So you could get me to wear an XFL hat with, I actually tried to buy it in blue first, but they were out of stock, which is St. Louis Battlehawks, I guess, is the blue team. But they do seem to represent teams. So I could wear those as long as I'm not fully supporting a team that is a rival of mine.
I don't like how you say out of stock as if they were popular. So they
were out of stock. Literally said that on the website.
But I think what happened is there was a printing error. Right, like they
that's
forgot
more
to
likely.
Make them.
That does seem more likely.
It's not like they were flying off the shelves. Like you're not going to find these in a sporting goods store anywhere, correct?
I don't know. Maybe at the stadium. You probably find it at the stadium store. Maybe
potentially. Maybe then not even. But it's still a scenario where Neil is one of the biggest XFL fans there is out there. He's got his Brahmas hat on, and he's also filled in for Kajeski sometimes on some of those premium videos. So go check those out, Sam. The next super chat here is from Melissa Harvey. Greg makes safe assumptions that there are people who are stupid, which, by the way, number one, that's very funny. But I'm not trying to, that's not the assumption necessarily that I'm making either. It's just, what is the path? If you were somebody who wasn't putting a ton of thought into your lineups, you're just a casual DFS player who's building one lineup, what is the path of least resistance? And that's just taking Jokic out of your player pool. And that's really what encapsulates the majority of the DFS players.
One other reason that I know this, one other reason I know this, by the way, is because I've been that guy. Like even in recent years, there have been slates where like I don't have time to listen to, I was playing NBA. I didn't have time to listen to Live Before Lock, Deeper Dive. So I didn't really know the full context of the slate. There are plenty of people who are going to play this slate without full context because they just don't have the time for whatever reason. Something came up. So I've been that guy too.
Yeah. I think we've all been that guy.
Yeah.
You are that guy, pal. We've all been that guy. It happens.
We are all that guy.
we're all that guy, pal. Or in Melissa's case, you are that lady.
That's right.
By the way, actually, Melissa, I'm curious because I never followed up with you. Did you end up getting your baseball cards graded? How'd they come back? She had some really cool old baseball cards. I think it was, if I'm not mistaken, Melissa, or Ricky Henderson that you'd messaged me about probably 6 months ago and didn't hear back. Do you ever have weird things like that where you have something that has not been in your mind like at all for a really long time, then all of a sudden something triggers it, and then you,
of course,
like, this is a conversation Melissa and I had probably like 6 months ago.
Yeah, happens to me all the time.
Yeah, I'd be curious to know how those baseball cards ended up coming out and what he ended up doing with them. But are we caught up on the super chats? Yes, I'm gonna check.
The OMG father says I played Keon Johnson last night. Yeah, exactly. We were all pretty. If you weren't completely paying attention to that slate, you were gonna have some Keon Johnson.
I got so lucky
Ricky
last
Henderson,
night.
Rookie card. Did you really?
Yeah, because I had all this, because I swapped a lot of my Keon Johnson to Malik Monk, which I think a lot of people did. Malik Monk ended up being 18% owned. There's no way he was going to be anywhere close to that. And then Malik Monk just crushed. So I had my best lineup, I think last night finished like 11th in the $4 or something like that. Oh, nice. And it's because it had a Malik Monk, just a global swap in that particular lineup from Keon Johnson. So I tried to manipulate my lineups because when I first ran crunches, when Keon Johnson first got rolled out, I got to like 60% of Malik Monk or something stupid. I'm like, I'm not doing this. I'm not playing. So I tried to get off Malik Monk as much as I could. And I did to an extent, but I still got to like 30% of him. And I was not happy about it. I was like, oh, great. I've got all this Malik Monk. And then he just has a ceiling game and just could not have luck boxed harder. So that worked in my favor. But these are the types of weird things that happen at this point in the NBA season.
Kevin Weiselman says, hey, Greg, tiers. Greg went over all of his tiers probably 15 minutes ago.
Oh yeah, who else asked about tiers?
Yeah, Kevin. It was just in chat, not a super chat. Just said, "Hey, Greg, how about tiers?" But yeah, he went over the tiers options maybe 15 minutes ago. So just rewind, listen on 2x.
And we've got, by the way, Greg, the way you remember every anecdote about every character in chat is incredible. Just feel you deserve a shout out for that. Well, number one, I'm here more than anybody. Well, actually, it's not true. Jordan's here a lot as well.
That is true. But Jordan can't talk to the people or chooses not to. He remembers everything too. Jordan's got a lockbox up there, but he chooses not to remember these anecdotes in chat.
In terms, this is my sitcom, basically. Like, I've got all these characters that show up. I like engaging with you all with this is what my night 6 days a week. I do this show every single night other than Sunday. This is how I spend all my evenings, hanging out with you guys.
I mean, me too, mostly these days. I just started a few weeks ago, but now I'm just about every night. There was another super chat from Cat's Body Double, by the way.
Yeah. We'll get on. We'll answer that next. But yeah, I just wanted to, you guys are part of my life. This is what I do every day. I come and hang out with you guys and I have a pretty good memory. There are times I've tried to destroy that memory with variants, with, different life choices, but it hasn't gone away. I've got, Neil's got his bourbon right there. But yes, thank you for the super chat, H. I appreciate it. Cat's Body Double. I'm not that guy. Cat's advice never fails me.
So true. If you just listen to Cats, you won't fall victim to these things. Cat's not in chat today. Never seen that before. By the way,
who's Cat's Body Double? I'm 99% sure that I know whose YouTube handle that is. I'm not going to give it away, but I know who it is.
I would assume that it's Eric T.
Don't give it away. That is who it is, but don't give it away.
Okay. So, you asked me. You asked me the question.
No. I said I know who it is.
Oh, I see.
Yeah, I wasn't going to give it away. But yeah, he's always coming up with different YouTube handles. So, but what I'm curious about, what I was going to ask you, sorry if this came out unclear, who is that a picture of?
Oh, I see. Okay, let me scroll up a little. That's Brandon Katz. That's his body double. That's the picture.
Unlikely. Because Brandon Katz to me looks more. If you ask me what Brandon Katz looks like, I would say Popeye Jones's headshot.
When I go to save image as, it says channels for profile. I was going to do a reverse image lookup. That's the kind of thing you do on a 2-game slate, doing a show on a 2-game slate.
You do reverse image lookups?
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, is this girl on this dating app a bot or not? Let's go to the reverse image search. But yeah, that's not, that can't be. I mean, if like, because Brandon Katz can't just be a normal looking person, right? None of us are normal looking people in this space.
Good point.
Popeye, I'm going to assume that Brandon Katz looks like Popeye Jones. If you guys have ever seen Popeye Jones' old headshot, one of the more interesting looking NBA players we've ever had. Kind of looked like the guy from the Goonies.
Yeah, reverse image search not really helping me here. I tried and it's not giving me anything. He looks like a football. I see it bigger. He looks like he's in a football stadium, maybe. I can't tell who that is.
And by the way, Brandon Katz has showed up in chat. He is 6'2" and he weighs 100 pounds and he's in good shape.
100 pounds at 6'2". That is not good shape.
Yeah, 6'2" and 100 pounds. He's in good shape. No, I mean, I mean, he's built like Wembayama kind of.
Okay, now I'm reading what the way he worded it. Okay, I get it now.
Yeah. Yeah. He's built like Victor Wembayama. He's just a little bit shorter.
Yeah.
I'm not 6'2". Then why'd you tell us you were 6'2"? I'm just reading what you wrote.
Cat sounds like Eric randomly mentioning his height constantly. That's the thing that tall guys do. Like if you're over 6 feet tall, you just got to constantly. If I were over 6 feet tall, I'd probably do it too. Just constantly talk about how tall I am.
And we've brought this up about this company. There are very, very few average height people that work here, and you'll end up being one of them. Yep. Everybody that works here. So here's the dynamics of the height of everybody here. Everybody's like 6'2" or taller, or 5'8" or shorter.
Yeah, except for me, right in the middle.
Yeah, except Neil's right in the middle. I'm 5'8". We've got Ben Raza. We're talking to. So the only one I didn't know was Ben Raza because Ben wasn't at the company retreat in Chicago. Ben said that he's 5'7", but also we think Ben is the only man who lies about his height and goes shorter.
Yeah,
he's the only one who does that.
He's 6'1".
But then we've just got some of the tallest people in the world that work here as well. Brody does a lot of our graphics. He's like 6'8". Tom, our CEO, he gets taller every time that I.
Rimpact says CEO Tom is a skyscraper. I like that.
When we first started talking, somebody first told me Tom was tall, it started that he's like 6'7". Now, according to legends, he's like 8 feet tall. So he's still growing. We've got we run the gamut in terms of heights in this company.
Yeah.
So Brandon Katz would actually fit right in, is what I'm saying here, based on his height and weight. 6'2", 100 pounds, that would fit right in around here. Now let's get back to talking about the scenario with the Denver Nuggets and who would benefit the most in a situation where Jokic doesn't play. And I do assume that we'd see Thomas Bryant start. So I think that you saying before that Thomas Bryant is somebody who gave a boost to, I think that totally makes sense. I think Thomas Bryant would be the top value play on the slate in that kind of scenario. Thomas Bryant, flat min on DraftKings, 3,000, be just a really strong option in that scenario. And then over on FanDuel, $4,100. And even if Thomas Bryant came off the bench, he'd be great to me if Jokic is out. So that's somebody we're looking at for sure. But now let's look at some of the other on-off court numbers. So if we take Jokic off, we could look at some of the usage rates for some of these other players and their overall fantasy production.
So are you confident that it would be Thomas Bryant instead of Zeke Naji? That's the only. So I had assumed it was Thomas Bryant when I wrote my article earlier, and then I was listening to Deeper Dive, and they were saying that they think that Zeke Naji has got to start the last time Jokic was out. So they were speculating that maybe it was going to be Zeke Naji, and I don't really have a strong opinion there. The real question: do you think you're going to set a group for Zeke Naji and Thomas Bryant in the event that Jokic is out?
So, well, here's one of the issues here, though. So Zeke Naji started the last time that Jokic was out, but Bryant wasn't on the team then.
Oh, yeah.
If I'm not mistaken, let me pull this up because I think I remember that to be true. Yeah. So the last time that Jokic was out, DeAndre Jordan started.
That's right. I remember that.
Zeke Naji came off the bench, which actually, that makes me even more confident that Thomas Bryant would start. If Zeke Nnaji didn't start last time, if they started DeAndre Jordan over Zeke Nnaji,
right,
I would have to think they're going to start Thomas Bryant over Zeke Nnaji as well, because Thomas Bryant is better than DeAndre Jordan. Here's what the minutes looked like the last time Jokic was out. And this game was, so if anybody wants to look up this box score, February 5th against the Minnesota Timberwolves, a team that Neil is familiar with. That was a game that Jokic sat, Jamal Murray sat, Aaron Gordon sat, and Kentavious Caldwell-Pope sat. DeAndre Jordan started and played 24 minutes. Zeke Nnaji came off the bench and played 24 minutes.
Interesting.
Game was also a blowout, by the way.
They're also facing Jova. How tall is Thomas Bryant? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Some players, you search their name and it's the first thing that comes up, and then others, it's like
he's tall. He fitted at this company too.
That's what I was thinking. Yeah, 6'10". Okay, so he's taller. Zeke Nnaji is 6'9", so not a huge. In my mind, Thomas Bryant is like 3 inches taller than Zeke Nnaji, but apparently just 1.
Yeah, once again, I think it would be Thomas Bryant. Like my guess here is still Thomas Bryant, and I'm not saying I'm 100% certain of that. There's so many iterations here. We're trying to give out percentage odds on whether Jokic plays or not, then percentage odds on who would start. My lean is Thomas Bryant, though, based on that last game.
Yeah, I think that's a good lean.
So that is the way that I would lean. It would still make Zeke Nnaji playable. You would see it increase in minutes. But let's look at some of the other usage rates and whatnot. So we have, actually, I'm going to take Bones Highland off the court as well, because he actually has a fair amount of usage with Jokic off the court. Believe it or not, he actually leads the team in usage this year with no Jokic. So let's take Bones Highland off. Don't want to see those minutes. So no Bones Highland, no Nikola Jokic. It has to be Jamal Murray that leads the team in usage, but let's see. Yes, it is. 33.4% usage rate for Jamal Murray and 46.83 DraftKings points per 36 minutes without Jokic and without Bones Highland. So Jamal Murray for sure. Aaron Gordon. By the way, no other super high usage guys with Jokic off the court this year. We've got Aaron Gordon, 25% usage rate, 41 fantasy points per 36 minutes. Really strong option, but haven't necessarily seen the massive usage from him. What do you make of Michael Porter Jr., who only has a 24.6% usage rate without Jokic on the court this year, but is somebody who just intuitively we would think takes more shots in this situation?
It's a very small sample size. So
Yeah.
I think that I'm going to feel good about playing more Michael Porter Jr. if Jokic is out. Obviously, I'm going to just bump his usage a little bit, his minutes a little bit. I think he's going to be a really nice play at 5,900 if Jokic is out.
And a follow-up, because Jay Breezy in the chat said I thought Bones Highland is a Clipper. He is. That's why I took him off the court, because he leads the team this season. He was on the Denver Nuggets for most of the year prior to the trade deadline, and he did lead Denver in usage with Jokic off the court. So I just took Highland off the court as well, so that we weren't seeing data with him as well. So Michael Porter, somebody you still think you'd be very interested in?
Yeah, I think that I'm going to have a lot of interest in Michael Porter regardless. That's an interesting question. How does it affect if Jokic sits? How do you think that affects the J-Val on the other side? That's what I'm looking into it.
Yeah.
Oh,
so
that's the super chat actually.
If Bryant starts, so I assume that this means Jokic is out, Bryant starts, Zeke Nnaji comes off the bench. How does that affect Nance and Jonas Valanciunas? Honestly, not all that much. I wouldn't be doing anything significant to Nance and Jonas Valanciunas. So I think Jokic is underrated as a defender. It doesn't mean I think he's great, but the general population seems to think that Jokic is some massive, just negative on defense. Most of the numbers don't bear that. He's somewhere around average if we're looking at the advanced metrics with just Jokic as a defender. And I don't think Thomas Bryant is going to be massively different from what we'd expect from that, at least not to where I'd be like, oh, Nance and Jonas Valanciunas look especially different if it's Bryant starting at center. That's how I view it, at least.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at defensive real plus minus, which doesn't necessarily mean that much in terms of on defender, one-on-one matchups kind of stuff. But it's kind of interesting to see Jokic is 24th among centers in defensive real plus minus. Thomas Bryant is 31st, actually much better than Jokic by that metric. But I don't. That's more of a how good are they in terms of limiting the other team's scoring as opposed to their one-on-one defenders. Maybe not the best metric for this.
Yeah. So that's once again, it's something that for me, because I know the heart of this question, I wouldn't be doing anything different about Nance and Jonas Valanciunas if it's Thomas Bryant starting at center.
So Matt Butler on Twitter says Zeke Nnaji has been Jokic's backup for the last 4 games. He was injured prior, while Thomas Bryant has only played garbage time. Yeah.
Well, By the way, that was the same situation with DeAndre Jordan before as well.
Right.
And once again, I'm just making an educated guess here, but we've typically seen from the Dr. Michael Malone that when Jokic goes down, he likes to play traditional centers as a starter. But because, by the way, that game that DeAndre Jordan started, he was a DNP coach's decision. 1, 2, 3, the 4 games leading up to that game that he started with Jokic out, and he was a DNP coach's decision the next 2 games after that as well.
Yeah.
Just my lean. I'm guessing Thomas Bryant starts if Jokic is out. Obviously, if Jokic ends up playing, this all goes down the drain. Sure. And it's also not that hard to change between Zeke Naji and Thomas Bryant. If you're allocating roster spots for them, they're so cheap. It's not hard to swap a Zeke Naji to a Thomas Bryant at the center spot or vice versa. It's not a difficult change to make.
Yep.
Got another super chat here from my filler arc. CJ and Trey Murphy or Smart and Derek White? Let's look.
CJ and Trey Murphy or Smart and Derek White.
By the way, while I'm looking at this, let you guys know that our projections, guys, have just been killing it this year, especially this time of year where it's nearly impossible to do this in terms of projecting players. It's really difficult. There are so many players that get ruled out constantly. Our projections, guys, have been on top of it. Even at this time of year, as news has been really crazy, and they've been really quick. It's been really valuable. Helped me out a whole bunch. And if you guys want to get access to our projections, sign up for any of our NBA packages. You're going to get 50% off if you've never signed up using the link below. It is going to be really helpful. I promise it's going to help you guys, especially this time of year. If you're playing NBA DFS without projections, you are making a mistake. So take advantage of our projections that we have here and our guys like Rich and like Lee, who have just been doing a really good job keeping on top of all the different injury news. And then also, we right now have our offer with MLB coming back, where if you sign up for a Stochastic Plus Platinum package using the promo code MLB is back, there's a link that has that promo code already loaded in. You're going to get 50% off a monthly Platinum package, which includes all of the sports that we have over here. But let's get back to that question for my filler arc. CJ McCollum and Trey Murphy or Smart and Derek White. So I'm looking at our projections right now. Who would I prefer here?
Yeah, so I'm going to get more like based on projections. I like Derek White and Marcus Smart better. Like they're both great point per dollar plays. I actually have a good amount of CJ. I don't have much Trey Murphy at all. I think I actually have 0 Trey Murphy, which is probably a mistake for a guy who's playing 35 minutes a game, but he just doesn't project all that well at 6,000. It's a little bit tough because part of me wants to think, well, I also want to leave some flexibility for that last game, but it's a 2-game slate. So maybe I'd probably just go the Celtics guys.
Yeah, makes sense to me. I don't have an issue with that at all. The Celtics side, that's the side also I have more exposure to right now. So that's where I will lean as well. Do we have any more questions in there? Go check Discord. If you guys have questions for me in Discord, hit me up. And we just got some. Discord, we've got question here from Hef Love. Holiday, Middleton, and Giannis all low owned? ? So here's something else as well. Actually kind of goes back to what we were talking about yesterday. If we're assuming that Jokic is not going to play today, make sure to get more exposure to Giannis. Giannis, Neil and I were talking about live before lock last night, was way crazy under-owned based on the idea that there was going to be more value that opened up later on in the day. And it was pretty surprising to me to see how well he projected for us and how low his ownership was. I agree with you, Heflev. I think Giannis is under-owned because there's going to be this extra value that opens up if Jokic is out. I would give Giannis a thumbs up in Fantasy Cruncher because of that.
Yeah. And I mean, so because I'm using Fantasy Cruncher, I just, as I said, I gave boosts to the players from the Nuggets, which naturally then I got to 57% Giannis because I took Jokic out of my player pool and gave boost to the Nuggets, which of course, if Jokic ends up playing, it's not going to be good, but it's like, well, it's a 2-game slate. You gotta kind of take some stands here. So yeah, that will, if you just give boosts to those Denver guys, that essentially gives also a boost to how much Giannis you're going to get just because it makes it easier to get to him.
Yeah. So that's something else. Is like if you're playing and if you think it's Thomas Bryant, or you think it's going to be Zeke Naji, if you are building your lineups assuming Jokic is out, you know who matter. It doesn't really matter which of them you were expecting to start. At least for this scenario, it's going to make it easier to get to Giannis though. The next question we have here is from Miami High Life. If you think Jokic is out, who do you think are these starters? So the only starter that would change is the center spot, right? Like I don't think they're overhauling anything else.
Yeah.
And we've been talking about it. My guess is going to be Thomas Bryant. I wouldn't be shocked if it's Zeke Naji either. And I do totally hear the point. And I'll just reiterate what I said before because we got a question about it. The idea that Thomas Bryant has not been in the rotation, I understand that. But in previous scenarios where Jokic has been out, DeAndre Jordan has started at center, even though he hasn't been in the rotation in those games. So right. All of the starts DeAndre Jordan has made this year, February 5th against the Minnesota Timberwolves, he was a DNP coach's decision in 5 consecutive games leading up to that game. The start before that, January 13th against the Clippers, he was a DNP coach's decision in the 2 games prior to that. And then earlier in the year, he actually was a part of the rotation, but that's because the Denver Nuggets didn't realize how dog shit he was at basketball. But even when they realized that he sucks, he was still getting spot starts when Jokic sat. So that's why I think that Thomas Bryant would be the guy who gets the spot start here.
Yeah. And I mean, obviously we're going to know prior to the game starting. So it's not really that imperative. You just got to pay attention to news as it comes out.
Yeah. So my guess anyway would be Jamal Murray, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, Thomas Bryant. If not Thomas Bryant, probably Zeke Naji. So Miami High Life. I hope that helps you out there a little bit. And we are all caught up on questions. Now let's look at some of the lineups we have built, Neil. And let's just talk about the players that we're gravitating towards the most at the moment. Do you want to do it for DraftKings and I'll do it for FanDuel?
Sure.
All right. So I think this is a good way to kind of break down the slate for a few minutes here, lead people into lock. I assume a lot of you guys are finalizing your lineups now. So at point guard, who do you currently get to on DraftKings? The most.
So I get to 60% Mark. So I played 30 lineups, 60% Marcus Smart, 57% Jamal Murray. Because again, I gave him a boost under the assumption that Jokic said. That's the way I built my lineups. I got 57% Jamal Murray and then 47% CJ McCollum, 40% Derek White. So some pretty high owned point guards. I guess it's a 2-game slate, not a huge surprise there.
Yeah. So for me at point guard, I got to, and once again, I'm talking about FanDuel here. Neil's doing it for DraftKings. Me for FanDuel, once again, I'm making the assumption here as I build my lineups that Jokic doesn't play. We don't 100% know that Jokic is going to be out today, but I'm building my lineups under that kind of logic. And that gets me to Jamal Murray and Jrue Holiday the most at point guard on FanDuel. Yourself at shooting guard on DK, who popped up most meaningfully.
Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Jaylen Brown, and Derek White. I'm seeing somebody in chat just said that Joker is in. I'm just trying to see if there's any actual.
No. He's questionable.
Oh, yeah.
Jokic is questionable. And the shooting guards. So anyway, who'd you say for shooting guard? Sorry, I got distracted there.
Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Jaylen Brown, and Derek White are the only shooting guards that I have in any significant amount.
Okay, so for me at shooting guard, KCP and Malcolm Brogdon, I got to the most at shooting guard on FanDuel. Small forward on DraftKings, who ended up popping up the most for you?
Jaylen Brown, Brandon Ingram, Michael Porter Jr., Jason Tatum.
Josh Richardson and Michael Porter Jr. Giannis as well, because Giannis has small forward eligibility. So I'll use him there as well. Power forward, it's going to be some of the same names, but power forward yourself on DraftKings.
Aaron Gordon, Giannis, Zeke Naji, Jason Tatum.
And then at power forward, Aaron Gordon, Michael Porter Jr., Giannis Antetokounmpo. How about center?
Thomas Bryant, Giannis, Zeke Naji.
Yep. So for me, center, Al Horford, Thomas Bryant, Zeke Naji over for FanDuel purposes. And then also in chat, we had Dirty Dan X. Oh, I guess it's not. It says XD, but I know it's supposed to be the laughing emoji. But he says Greg is wrong because he doesn't understand that with Jokic out, the pace of the Denver-New Orleans game will be faster. The Boston-Milwaukee game should be the lower scoring game. Did I say that one of them was going to be higher scoring though?
I think he's quoting Katz there because Katz was saying that earlier. Yep, he is. That's an exact Brandon Katz quote.
Okay, I don't know what I'm wrong about though.
Yeah.
But we're going to ignore. I don't even know what the point is though here.
Yeah, I'm not. I want to see Leroy Smith. If you can provide us any evidence that Jokic is out. I'm not finding any on Twitter. You keep saying it. I don't think that there is any. I can't find anything suggesting that Jokic has been ruled in.
Yeah, there's no. He's not. He's questionable. I understand. So I don't think he's trying to give news. I think he's just saying he thinks he's going to play.
No, he keeps saying it. He says he is in now, Greg. He said so.
Okay. Oh, well, then he's getting banned.
Yeah.
All right. Where is it? So there's only
You can't just say Twitter. Post.
Yeah.
Tell
okay.
me,
So
give me an @ if it's a real thing.
So here's something also. I'm not Eric, right? I'm not trigger hacking. I don't go ban people for it. The only thing I ever ban people for here, and you guys could hate me, like me, disagree with my takes. It doesn't make a difference to me. We're all going to have different opinions, but don't come in here and just spread wrong news because whatever reason you feel like doing it. That's the only, because we're trying to do the show here to at least give you guys information and make sure that it's accurate. The actual information here is that Jokic is questionable. We're making assumptions that Jokic is potentially going to sit. Don't just come in here and purposely spread wrong news and say you have a source that the Jokic is going to be out. I'm sure the guy has 8 followers on Twitter. It's, him and a couple of his friends just assume he's going to play or whatever.
Yeah.
He might play, he might not. We don't know for sure. We got a super chat here from Jay. He wants to know for the Nuggets versus Pelicans showdown, but this gets so tricky with the Jokic scenario. But let me look at the showdown pricing here and run some lineups. And I guess for showdown, it's totally different strategy as well, because you're going to know for showdown whether Jokic
everybody's going to know. Yeah.
Right. It's totally different than for DFS purposes. When Neil and I are making classic lineups, we have to speculate on whether Jokic plays or not. You're just going to know this information for showdown. So I'm just going to make the showdown lineups assuming Jokic is in right now. And then afterwards, I'll give you some analysis on what would happen if he ends up sitting. But with Jokic in, I get to Jokic a ton. He's the most rostered captain by a mile. Utility spots, Jeff Green, Aaron Gordon still pops up a bunch. CJ McCollum and Brandon Ingram from the other side of the game. Christian Brown, also somebody who pops up from the Denver side of the game. Now, if Jokic is out, all of these Denver players go through the roof. Like Jamal Murray becomes really high priority, Michael Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon, and then Zeke Naji and Aaron Gordon, as well as cheap value plays. And then on the other side, you're just going to get to a bunch of CJ McCollum and Brandon Ingram because you have infinite value at that point. But for this, Chris, you don't have to make any kind of assumptions about whether Jokic is in or out. You're going to know prior to lock. So, Jay. I said the wrong name because we got another super chat from Chris Williams afterwards who said, ban that Muppet. That's what I did. I know some people don't like when we do the banning on YouTube. It's the only thing I'll ban for. If people come in and post just
fake news,
blatantly wrong news, it's the only thing I ever ban for. Well, that and there's been some like really egregious racist messages. That's the one other thing. Beyond that, everybody's cool by me.
Greg is fine with sex bots. That's totally fine. You just can't be racist or give fake news.
Preferred.
Sex
I've been
bots.
trying
Absolutely
for years. People would ask me, what can we do to improve our YouTube shows? I say sex bots.
Of course. Greg actually pays for the sex bots to come in.
In fact, I want to do a show one day where we have a blow up doll of Eric with just an open mouth, and we just pretend that's actually Eric. I wouldn't know the difference.
Yeah, who would know that? Nobody would be able to tell.
How could you tell?
Somebody asked about Robert Williams. It's hard for me. So I'm not getting too much Robert Williams, and it's the reason is twofold. One being he's just playing not that many minutes off the bench lately. The other reason being because I'm giving boost to all these Denver guys, I'm just getting to all the cheap Denver guys instead of getting to Robert Williams. And I think that's just a stand I'm taking here. I'm just playing under the assumption that Jokic is out. So I'm not going to get the, questionable value from the first game as much.
Yeah. By the way, you answered that in the exact amount of time because I just drank from my water bottle and it had some ice in it.
I wasn't even looking at you.
Oh my, it's the absolute worst. Nothing worse than, because I'm a thirsty boy. I get very parched during shows. So I'm trying to drink my water and sometimes you get ice in there and it's this, what do? Do I chew the ice and then people could hear me chew on stream? Do I just swallow it and risk choking and just wait for it to melt to survive? It's always difficult there. So thank you for letting the ice dissolve in due time there.
I'm
Abel
glad
Ramos,
I could do that for you.
We appreciate it. This is why we work so well together. Abel Ramos, super chat. We love you, Greg. Too much, maybe. Not possible.
Not possible.
We love you too, by the way, Abel. Love you.
We love you, Abel. Who was I going to respond to? There was somebody who said something I wanted to. Oh yeah, B says OddsShopper loves Robert Williams props today. That's interesting. I'm guessing they're pretty low lines though for us to love Robert Williams props because he doesn't project extremely well for us or anything.
So what did he say? BetPro or OddsShopper?
He said OddsShopper loves Robert Williams props.
Hey, I'll pull it up right now and we could give the people the information in it. But I agree with you. It's probably because the lines are really low.
Yeah, because we don't project him extremely well.
Let's see. Robert Williams. I'll search his name. I looked at the top of our props, and he was not one of the. Yeah, we have all of his props as negative EV, so I don't think we love him. Our number one projected Robert Williams prop is under 14.5 points plus rebounds plus assists with a negative 6% ROI. Is that love?
It's not love. Maybe he meant the under props. Maybe he meant the under props.
Well, that's what I said. That's the number one is the under with a negative.
Oh, okay.
6%.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah, just all negative here.
Time Lord is a guy that I often love him just because he's such a volatile player. Like he can get so many stocks and just like really light up a slate, but really hard to do that when you're only playing like 18 minutes.
Yeah, and they've been really cautious with them, especially because I think how this season and last season went. So if you guys remember, Robert Williams missed the tail end of last year, the regular season, because he had knee surgery. He wasn't healthy to start the playoffs. He started to get going, but then he hurt his knee again in the playoffs. He tried to play through it. Didn't really go well. He had to have another surgery in the offseason. Recent games for Robert Williams, 15 minutes, 19 minutes, 15 minutes. Hard to expect a lot out of him from a playing time perspective.
Yeah.
We got a question here from JEW. In our Discord channel, Jay wants to know, thoughts on stacking 5 Denver potential starters, assuming Jokic is out with Ingram or run back, or is Giannis needed for his points? So I think that if Jokic is out and we're going to have all this value from Denver, you're going to need Giannis or Tatum just from a raw points perspective.
Yeah, probably. I'm getting to a lot of Giannis and Tatum as a result of playing these cheap guys. Yeah, I mean, it's not the worst thing you can do. Like Ingram can spike an upside, but yeah, I guess I would say I'm fine with it. If you built a lineup that you like that looks like that, I don't have any issue with it. In general, I'm going to have more lineups that have either Tatum or Giannis in it relative to, I guess I have more Ingram than I do of Tatum. So take that for what it's worth.
And then a question for you also, because I know you usually max yourself out at 3 players per team. Any kind of rules you made with that for a 2-game slate?
It is 6 today. I could get 6 players in one team, which I that's probably too much. I should probably set it at like 5. But it's a 2-game slate. Like you don't use the usual rules on a 2-game slate.
Yeah, it's there's too many different scenarios that could happen. So I think that for this, no rules at all. If you had 6 players from a team, maybe not ideal, but it's not the end of the world.
And I didn't get to any, by the way. I got to some 5-man stacks, but no 6 for what it's worth.
Yeah. So that's where I'm out with this as well. No real rules for this. Even in terms of there are players that are negatively correlated. I don't even care that much about it because I know this is going to be a question people would ask later. People are going to want to know, can you play Zeke Naji and can you play Thomas Bryant in the same lineup? If we find out that Jokic is out, I'm sure I'll get asked this on Twitter. People ask, can you play Zeke Naji and can you play Thomas Bryant in the same lineup? On a 2-game slate where they're both as cheap as they are, yes.
Yeah. Like you could get 12 points from one of these guys and he might be optimal. Like that's how much you need on a 2-game slate.
Especially if especially if like Giannis and Tatum both have ceiling games.
Yeah.
And you just need the salary savings. Two min price guys or really cheap guys. I know Thomas Bryant's 4,100 on FanDuel, but you get 2 really cheap guys that just go out and score like 15 fantasy points. A lot different looking on this slate than it would be on a full slate.
Yeah, it's just a difference in what you need, like what you need for the upside to be like. You don't need guys to have the upside of 6, 7x. You just need guys who can, make a lineup that has high upside.
And I also have built out here, just because there's a few minutes to go, and I'm sure there's some people that are crunching lineups or building lineups for this last second as well. I'm going to give you guys out some of the most rostered players I have for the showdown slate between the Celtics and the Bucks, because I think that'll be useful to some of you guys as well. I got to Giannis the most as a captain, Tatum second. I don't think that should be surprising to anybody. Both of them are really strong options. As far as the cheaper players go, I actually got to a ton of Robert Williams in crunches for the showdown game because it's totally different for a 1-game slate where he's $4,000 for showdown. So I do like him for that kind of format. And then in terms of mid-range options, Al Horford I got to, Derek White, Marcus Smart. But payups, it really ended up a lot of Giannis and Tatum got jammed in by lineups on Fantasy Cruncher. So if you guys are building lineups for the 1-game slate for Boston and for the Bucks, I hope that helps you. What is going on in chat? And now, so because we got that super chat from Chris, everybody's calling everybody a Muppet.
It's a good insult, I think. I kind of like it.
It's big in England, if I'm pretty sure.
I think you're right.
Yeah, people call each other Muppets.
We've got people in England right now watching the show, and they're like, these guys have no fucking clue what they're talking about. We're just speculating.
Yeah, and they're just talking about our basketball analysis, by the way, when they say that.
That's also true.
Yeah, it's just like, look at these idiots.
Fucking idiots projecting Jokic out.
Fucking Muppets. I agree though. Muppets is funny. What does it actually mean? If I look it up in
it's like a puppet. It was a TV show, probably before your time.
But why is it considered derogatory?
I don't know. I guess maybe it's like somebody else is like you're a puppet. Maybe it's the same kind of idea, but I don't know. I don't know.
There is something about you could only operate with a hand up your ass that I think.
That is true. That's funny. I like that.
Yeah, something like that.
Oh yeah, Jack Koff says it means there's a hand up your ass.
Okay. Well, Muppet, according to Urban Dictionary, a person who is ignorant and generally has no idea about anything. So that is what a Muppet is according to Urban Dictionary. Is there an Urban Dictionary word of the day or anything?
Reese Kirk says, I'm watching from England and I agree on the basketball statement.
Okay. Yeah, we don't know anything about basketball. Hey, fair. Are there any NBA players from England?
I can't think of any. Can you think of a single NBA player from England?
I think OG Anunoby is.
Oh, he might be. That's a good point.
NBA players from England. England NBA players. There's a thing on Real. Oh, so
OG Anunoby is.
Bang. Ben Gordon was from England?
Really?
That must be like a technicality, like he was born there, right?
Yeah, I don't recall ever hearing Ben Gordon speaking with an English accent.
So here are the players that are from England according to Real GM. Currently NBA, I got that one, OG Anunoby. So Anunoby is, and then he's the only active player. But then historically, Ben Gordon, Luol Deng, Joel Freeland. That's a very British sounding name.
We got CEO giant Tom Kennedy in chat. Says Michael Olowokandi.
It is Michael Olowokandi. I am not. This is a player from the Minnesota Timberwolves, but Indubi Ebi. Do you remember him?
No.
Well, he was apparently a British player. Helena Azubuike was from England. Pops Mensah-Bonsu, James Donaldson, also a very English sounding name. Steve Bucknall, another very English sounding name, and Chris Harris. Chris Harris could be from anywhere, but Steve Bucknall, James Donaldson, those are very, very British sounding names. So that brings us past the informational part of the show. That's good for if anybody's playing trivia ever, because I know that we were talking about that post.
And Ryan Stubbs points out the obvious, Alex English, who, if you've ever bought Panini basketball cards, you have an Alex English autograph in your collection somewhere, because they just, every product they put out, it's Alex English autographs over and over.
Really?
Yeah.
Interesting.
Alex, and who is the other? There's another Nuggets like 80s star who has a funny name. I'll forget who it is though.
It'll be a mystery unsolved. By the way, This is the part of the show I've been looking forward to all day today, Neil. It's time to build out some Sorare lineups from your account. So Jordan, if you could pull that up and do a screen share so that we could look at Neil's account right here. We're going to do, if you guys haven't watched what Neil and I do with Sorare, and we do a standalone show as well earlier in the week. We do it on Mondays. Neil and I do a show. We build lineups from his account. And I have to know, because I know that this is a little more in advance than we usually do. Have you built out any of your lineups yet, just to kind of see what's on the periphery?
You know that I'm a projections snob. I don't know what the word I want to use for myself is. I just use our projections. We don't have projections yet, or at least I don't think we do. Maybe we do. It is Fat Lever. Yeah, a couple people. Emax said it. Benny Levine. Yeah, it is Fat Lever that I was thinking of. It's the other Nuggets player who is in every box of Panini cards.
So I mean, this is before my time. When I was into cards as kids, the big thing was, and my brother's really into collecting cards. He gets them graded, he flips them, he buys and sells them. He's got tons of cards. If I go upstairs into his office. But when I was into cards, the big thing was, which are now worthless, the cards that had the piece of the game used jersey on them.
That was like late 90s. So I collected cards as a kid. Then I graduated college and I needed money. So I was like, I got these basketball cards. They got to be worth something. Like I've waited 20 years. They got to be worth something. They weren't worth shit, but it somehow got me back into like buying cards. And the first time I got one with the game used jersey. And I was like, this has to be worth so much money. And then it was like, oh, this is like a standard thing now.
So I have in my, because I didn't know what else to do with them. I didn't want to throw them out because they had some sort of sentimental value and they have a little bit of real life value. But I do have a booklet of cards in my desk, and it has just a bunch of game used jersey cards. I've got like a Brett Favre in there, Roger Clemens. So I've got players that I thought were cool when I was a kid. And now I look them up online. It's like people buy it for $2.
Really? Even like a Roger Clemens? Really?
Yeah. It's worth nothing.
Interesting. Also, that is not the best way to maintain your cards in a booklet.
No, but also it's what I had as a kid,
yeah,
right? I didn't know any better.
Yeah, exactly.
So like my brother gets stuff now. When he gets it, he's immediately putting it in sleeves, in another sleeve. Then he sends it to PSA to get graded. And it's like a whole thing. Me, it's like, I'm going to take it. I'm going to flick it like this. And I'm going to try to cut my brother with it. Like, do you ever, you know how you could like flick it with your wrist?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Spin really fast. Yeah. So I would do that. And we would try to injure each other. That's also not a great way to maintain cards.
Ben P says, Neil, I pulled a Julio Rodriguez 2023 Topps postseason auto relic 2 days ago. Then a Rory Rainmakers. Man, that is a nice week you're on. I have no idea how much that Topps postseason Julio Rodriguez, but I imagine auto relic. Is that from like the new classic top set? I think that comes out like opening day. There's like opening day top sets, which they're cheap to buy, and then you can really hit nicely in that. So that's an awesome pull.
And then Spencer Smith, Greg should have collected Pokemon. Oh, trust me, I did. I did. I don't have any existing Pokemon collections or anything. I do have a friend I went to camp with who I went to a Nets Celtics game with about a month and a half ago. I hadn't seen him for years. He kept all of his Pokemon cards from when we were kids and kept them all in like reasonably good condition. He's tens of thousands of dollars worth of Pokemon cards just by not throwing them out as kids.
Awesome. Jealous.
Now, you know what never, ever is in bad condition? Sorare cards. They're stored digitally.
True.
They're stored digitally. And if you guys want to make a Sorare account, it's real easy. Sign up using the link that we have below. And when you do that, you purchase 5 limited player cards. You're going to get a 6-1 totally for free from Sorare. And also, don't forget, we're going to be launching some leagues here in the near future at Stochastic where you can win prizes that are going to be exclusive to the contest that we're running. Also, you're going to be able to get some prizes from Stochastic, like platinum memberships, things along that nature. So we are going to look at some of the Sorare stuff right now in Neil's account. And let's do an initial look at building lineups. So a lot of times on Mondays when we do this, Neil's already built out his lineups. I try to guess the lineup that Neil has built. We're not going to be able to do that today because Neil hasn't built out lineups. We do have projections at stochastic.com. They're totally free to use. We don't quite have them updated yet for tomorrow's slate, but they will be tomorrow. So go check that out. I'm also going to be doing a Sorare video. It'll be up tomorrow. It'll be like, 10 to 12 minutes long. I'll be breaking down my favorite players for the upcoming Sorare slate. And right now we're going to look through Neil's collection and build a lineup for him.
I think I'm also doing a live show on Sorare tomorrow. I should check my schedule to see if that is true. But I believe I do one, or maybe it's a different show that I'm thinking of on Fridays.
This is the other new segment of the show where we find out what our work schedule is tomorrow.
Yeah, go check my schedule.
Yeah.
I might have something there.
So let's build out the lineup. And Neil, where do we want to start here? What lineup do you want to build?
Greg, here's the thing. Regardless of what lineup we build, I'm just going to change it tomorrow when I get the projections, most likely. Let's go to limited champion. That is, as you say, my bread and butter.
Yes.
Let's start there and see what we can do.
All right. So we'll go to the limited champion. And by the way, there are a bunch of players you have for cheap from the Portland Trailblazers that you had previously. They're going to hold value still. These are still players that are going to be really valuable. So if you guys are curious about what it is that you're seeing on screen, you've got the 2 games. That is how many games players play on the upcoming slate. You don't get the total fantasy points from those games, but you're going to get the highest fantasy score from whatever slate is. So if a player plays 3 games, whatever the highest of those 3 scores are, that's what counts. You've got the number there next to Joel Embiid, the 58. That is the equivalent of his salary. So the salaries on Sorare is just whatever players have scored their last 10 average. So last 10 games, Joel Embiid has averaged 58 Sorare fantasy points. He costs 58 on Sorare. And there's also the 7%. The more you use players in your lineups, they gain experience, and there's a little bit of a multiplier for that. So we've got Embiid, we've got Jokic. By the way, if Jokic is going to sit today, I assume he's going to play other games for the upcoming slate, so I wouldn't be too concerned. Let me look at the Sixers schedule because they've been a little more cautious, I think, with their key guys as of late. So they have a back-to-back upcoming. Because if they do, then I think it's pretty easily Jokic over Embiid.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also
I'm
an
with you.
MVP spot. The MVP
Yes, Billy
is not-
Ripken. Sorry. Somebody was talking about Jose Canseco. They had a Jose Canseco rookie card, and I was thinking, is it Jose Canseco's brother who had the baseball card where the bat face was showing and he'd written "fuck face" on it, and it was his rookie card? No, it was Cal Ripken Jr.'s brother, Billy Ripken.
There's this old basketball card. I can't remember which player it is, but when the players wore really short shorts, there was a player you could see like the tip of his penis in his basketball card.
I didn't know that one.
It just got missed. It just got missed in production. So that ended up going out to a lot of kids. They had that basketball card.
There's also there's a card with the Menendez brothers sitting courtside at Madison Square Garden, I believe.
Oh, yes. And I
forget who that
Mark
is.
Jackson card?
It might be Mark Jackson. I don't know. Anyway, yeah. So no Roseness. Wait, they just take your highest score out of the total game. So yeah, it's of your last 10 games, whatever your average. Oh, you're asking for how it scored. Yes, it is. If there are 2 games, it's whatever your highest score is from those 2 games, or 3 games, the highest score of those 3.
And we've got a super chat here from Noah Rosen. And let's see. Here we go. Yeah. Noah said, wait, they take your highest score out of the total games. I've been playing using players with more games thinking it is the total of the 3 games. It is not. It is whichever game the player scores the most. There's still an advantage to playing players that play multiple games, but don't just blindly play guys that play more games because they play more games.
Yeah, that was my initial read too, was that I thought it was going to be the total of the 3, and then learned to, reading closer is like, oh, you just get one of the 3, but it's still an advantage for sure.
Yeah, so it's good as a tiebreaker as well. And it's factored into our projections, the amount of games players play and how many fantasy points we project them for. Let's scroll down. What are some of the other expensive players that Neil has to choose from? And the highest salary player that we end up playing counts as the MVP spot and doesn't count against the salary. So he's got Embiid, he's got Jokic, we've got Luka, we've got Giannis. Giannis only 1 game. He's liable to sit out at any point in the NBA season.
Yeah.
So wouldn't play him in. So that's a scenario where somebody plays 1 game that I'd be really skittish to play him. Like Giannis, you're playing with fire, or 1 game Giannis.
It's hard because his salary is 53. So like if he does play, that's going to be a great value, I would imagine, on Giannis. But yeah, it's really risky with just 1 game.
Yeah. Yeah. Noah follows up. He says, I haven't been playing my best players if they only had 1 or 2 games. Yeah, that's a mistake.
Yeah. So that's just a misreading of the rules. Yeah, that was, I think the first week I played the same way. I thought more games, just you just multiplied it, but yeah, just get 1.
Yeah, no back-to-backs upcoming for the 76ers. So Joel Embiid, I don't think is going to be resting.
And by the way, part of the reason I rely so much on our projections is, so I actually talked to Alex about this. Our projections are based on the player's higher score of the 2. So I didn't realize that we had the ability to project out games in the future, but they're actually, Alex is also actually going in and if there's 3 games on the if a team plays 3 games on the slate, our projection for them is going to be their highest of those 3 games. So that's pretty cool.
And some early results for the ongoing game. I'm going to check on this. It is 15-15 halfway through the first quarter. Jaylen Brown off to the hottest start for the Celtics. 7 points, a rebound, and an assist. On the cheaper end, if you guys were looking for value, Marcus Smart is a mid-range play, 3 points, a rebound, and assist, and a steal. On the Bucks side of the game, 5 points, a rebound, and assist, and a steal for Giannis. He is their top fantasy scorer. And then we've got Chris Middleton, 5 points, 2 rebounds, and an assist.
I sort of had a feeling that Jaylen Brown was going to go off today. I mean, it's still early. He might not. But because I've been playing him consistently at 1%, 2% ownership, I just one of these days, Jaylen Brown is going to go off. So it kind of occurred to me, 2 game slate. This is, of course, when he's going to go off, when he's highly owned, which Adam and Josh talked about on the last show.
Yeah.
That's just been a thing this season. Whenever a player is too high owned or really high owned, that's when they go off.
Well,
the worst.
There we go. So by the, I don't even know what logic we're calling that, but it was the Jaylen Brown day based on the every other game.
By the nobody runs worse logic. Yeah.
By the nobody runs worse logic. Fair enough.
Yeah. Chris Williams, our Apple guy, says I have 100% Brown. Well, you're off to a nice start, Chris.
All right. What can Brown do for you? A lot, apparently. Scores lots of points, fills up the peripheral stats. So Embiid, Jokic, I'm curious if we could fit both of them in. Just select both of them for right now, Jordan. Why?
Maybe because we do have so much value in those Blazers guys.
Yeah, I assume we're going to have a lot of value. Embiid, Jokic. I do favor them over Luka. As great as Luka is as a fantasy producer, he has taken a little bit of a step back with Kyrie in the picture. So let's go with both of them over. You good with that? Embiid and Jokic over Doncic for now?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, now let's scroll down and see who's really cheap. Look at those Valanciunas.
I've got some really nice cards, Greg.
Yeah, it looks spectacular.
I love showing off my collection.
All the way to the bottom. I want to see the really cheap guys. I want to see just the garbage players he has from the Portland Trail Blazers. We've got the Drew Eubanks. I always like to talk about the Drew Eubanks you have because it was the first card you ever pulled on one of the shows we did together. And at first you were kind of like, oh, Drew Eubanks. And then that same day, Nurkic got added to the injury report as questionable. And we kind of point out like, hey, if he gets ruled out, Eubanks look pretty good. And Nurkic kind of hardly played since. So we do have him as a potential value. Nasir Little looks really good. Svi Mykhailiuk looks really good right now.
Yeah.
There's a lot of guys we could go to. Jordan, because I have bad eyesight and it's hard to see, can you tell me how many remaining points we have and how many average salary we got per person? Okay, so 21 about per. We got 21.3 because I could do that kind of math in my head.
That's really good math,
divided by 3. Yeah. Bang bang. I got
it. If Mike Lawrence were producing this show, he would have done the math for you. But we'll let you do the math.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we got Jordan. You got to work with what you got with.
Exactly.
Keep scrolling down, Jordan. I got Svi Mykhailiuk is definitely somebody I'm considering for sure. We've got also Kai Jones. Who? Kai Jones. So Kai Jones is in the dumbest rotation ever. The Hornets, what they're doing.
Yeah, only 2 games, so maybe one of them is a Kai Jones game. But I don't think he's ever. Do you think they're going to start him at all, or is he always just going to be the backup in those rotations?
I don't know if they've said that. They've said that it's going to be.
I don't think they have. Maybe they have.
Yeah, they've just said it's going to be a center rotation where everybody gets a turn and we play like directly. Hey, your turn. Now it's your turn to play. But they haven't said if it's going to mean that one of them. Unfortunately, Keon Johnson's out for the year.
Is he really? I didn't realize it was the whole year.
I mean, I assume
Golden
so.
says, "What the fuck was that? Diagnosed with broken finger crap." Yeah, that was the most. Like he was like the most popular player on the slate, like 70% projected ownership at the time, and it's like, really, it happened earlier in the day, and nobody told us until after lock. That was bizarre.
Yeah, it was very weird because there wasn't even like when did he break his finger driving to the game? How did he get there? The
OMG father says that he literally broke it in shoot around last night. Okay, maybe I'm wrong. I thought I had read that he broke it like earlier in the day, like in like practice earlier in the day. Maybe I'm wrong about that.
Well, shoot around is typically earlier in the game, unless it was like warming up beforehand.
Okay, he said last night. Yeah, that's what I was thinking he meant, but I don't know.
Well, I'll look it up right now because I'm kind of curious. But either way, Keon Johnson would unfortunately these Keon Johnsons would have been incredibly valuable. Now they're not.
That is true.
You know what else?
Archie Diacono though benefits.
Yeah, let's look at. I'm going to look at the game from last night and some of the minutes everybody played. And I think that will help us to try to figure out which Blazers guys we might want to look at because I know you do have a bunch of them here.
I do.
So last night's game, which by the way, the Blazers lost by a gazillion points. The final score is 120-80 in that spot.
We got somebody. I'm going to the page now. We had a question. Any dong calls for the late slate, and I'm going to look it up just because you're sticking around with us on a 2-game slate after hours. So I'm going to go ahead and look at our top bats tool.
Yeah, the guy who had the basketball card with his wiener sticking out. That'll be my dong call tonight.
That's a good dong call.
For the purposes of my MLB DFS lineups, I hope it's Juan Soto.
I think he's talking about the night slate, which
still be Juan Soto.
Is that game also? That's on the main slate though. He's in the San Diego game that was flexed to the late game, but it's on the main slate.
All right, so the night slate tonight.
Yeah, I have not looked at all at the night slate, by the way. So
no, neither have I. I've been caught with my pants down here. I didn't look at the night slate for baseball prior to this. So
maybe we don't have the top batters for the night slate. I was going to look it up, but we still got the main slate in there. Maybe I can find it somehow.
I'm going to give a cop-out answer. Mike Trout is the answer. That's just the right answer.
Yeah. Or Shohei Ohtani, but you can't play him.
Yeah. I can't believe they haven't figured that out yet.
I know. Bizarre.
We're how many years into Shohei Ohtani's career? The thing that makes him most exciting, neither FanDuel nor DraftKings have figured out how to make this viable for DFS purposes.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
And I don't think it's that hard to solve either. You make a pitcher Ohtani, you make a hitter Ohtani. They have two separate price points.
It seems easy. Yeah.
It's two different players. Ohtani P, Ohtani H.
Yep.
Boom. Problem solved. I'm
Yeah,
sure
I mean, I think Trout is the obvious answer.
Yeah, Trout is the obvious answer. Let me see if I'm going to look and see if there's somebody a little more contrarian.
Yeah, I'm looking for that too.
Okay, here's one I got for you. Anthony Rendon at third base. I think people forget how good Rendon is because he's been so banged up lately. True. And one of the reasons that the Angels have not been successful despite having Shohei Ohtani, despite having Mike Trout. Mike Trout has been hurt himself a lot as of late in recent years. But Rendon also is somebody who they spent a ton of money on and have not gotten much return on. But he's a really good player when he's healthy. If there's any time that Anthony Rendon is going to be healthy, it is game 1 of the MLB season. I couldn't tell you about game 2 or game 3. Couldn't tell you about game 1. I can tell you pretty confidently he's not going to be healthy in game 162. Game 1, Rendon should be healthy. I'm going to pick him for my dong of the night.
I like that call.
The OMG father says, how about, did somebody say, I thought somebody wanted me to predict a double dong.
Oh, double dong. That's tough.
Yeah. I'm just going to say Rendon for my home run call.
Wait, what do you talk? Spencer Smith says Lindy has a lot of those cards, Greg. I have way more cards than Lindy. I think. I don't actually know what his collection looks like.
Yeah. What is this, a competition? Neil wins.
It is. Yes, I'm very competitive.
Neil
no,
wins.
He's very competitive. So then I have to compete with him.
This would actually be really funny if we just keep telling Eric that Neil has more cards than him, we might be able to bankrupt Eric by making him buy a bunch of cards.
Absolutely. That's a good idea. Let's try it.
Next thing you know, you got Eric buying that 1-of-1 Giannis for $200,000 just to one up Neil.
By the way, did you see there was a soccer sale today for like another 170,000 on Sorare?
I'll have to look because I'm not that in tune with the soccer because
I'm not either.
And by the way, Sorare baseball also. Because they've got Sorare baseball going on. Today's opening day of baseball. So I'm familiar with baseball, familiar with basketball. I don't know that much about soccer. Do you know which player it was? Yeah, so it was
Kylian Mbappe. I don't know if that's even how you pronounce his name. Unique 1-of-1 Sorare card just sold at auction for $195,563. This tops the all-time record for his most expensive physical card, which was a BGS 8.5 rookie Prism Gold card. Sold for apparently $161,000. So his Sorare card outsold his best-selling physical card. That's pretty cool.
By the way, we have to circle. So the gentleman that I banned from chat for spreading the fake news before has DM'd me on Twitter and apologized. Okay. He said that he saw it on Twitter, but he realized now that it was a fake source, not real. He apologizes.
Okay.
Apology accepted. Appreciate it. And water under the bridge as far as I'm concerned. You're good. So let's get back to your Sorare lineups, though. By the way, Archie Diacono played 0 minutes yesterday.
Did he really? I didn't realize that.
Yeah, they went with a 7-man rotation instead of playing him. So I'm going to say no Archie Diacono. Is this all the way at the bottom, Jordan, or is there more scrolling to do?
Spencer Smith says he meant that Eric has all the dong cards. I don't even remember what the context was of this. He just collects them.
He's spying on us when we go to the bathroom. He takes pictures. He hangs them up on his wall. I can see that. Okay, so that's all the way down. So the players I'm most apt to roster, let's go back up. Nasir Little for sure. Nasir Little was terrible last night.
Yeah.
Terrible, but he had so much opportunity. Nasir Little played 40 minutes yesterday, and he just shot like he was Dylan Brooks.
I mean, I've got Shaden Sharp. What is Shaden Sharp last 10 now?
Oh, good point. I'm sure he's value no matter what, though.
I would imagine so. Can you scroll up a little, Jordan?
Or type in Sharp. This might be a tough one for Jordan to spell. Oh, look at him.
22.
All right, yeah, we're going to play Shaden Sharp.
Sign me up for that. Yeah.
So Shaden Sharp at 22, Nasir Little at 13. By the way, we're just going to eyeball the optimal projected lineup. This is what the optimal lineup is going to end up being tomorrow when it comes out, Neil.
Yeah, I love that idea. We can just play this. Maybe I won't change it.
So now let's scroll down and see what we have for 29. And by the way, in chat, Squeak Diesel wants the link to sign up for Sorare. If you wouldn't mind, Jordan, could you throw that into chat? Oh, this is super easy. This lineup built itself. Taylor Horton Tucker.
I was thinking that. Looks pretty good.
So if you look at the injury report for the Jazz for tomorrow, they've already ruled guys out. This is, oh my God. Look, we built the nuts just with intuition and faith here.
This
The
is
NBA,
beautiful.
oh my, you know what's the worst part about the NBA slate being 2 games today, Neil? Other than the fact that we have a 2-game NBA slate today, it's 13 games tomorrow.
We have 13 games. Oh man. All right.
Eric's probably already working on his, that the video is going to take Eric all night to do.
His Lindy's locks, leans, and likes. I said that in the wrong order, I know, but
Hey, he's got bad. He's got baseball. Oh my God, he's probably having a breakdown. Well, he probably is anyway, but like especially so. So if we look at tomorrow for the Utah Jazz, and also THT is coming off some pretty substantially big games. He scored all of the points in Utah's game last night. For tomorrow, though, Utah has already ruled out Lauri Markkanen, already ruled out Jordan Clarkson. Colin Sexton remains out. Kelly Olynyk is questionable. Why even playing him at this point with all those guys out? THT's minutes are as secure as we are ever going to see. Something else also, I'm going to guarantee this right now. The old Charles Barkley, guarantee.
wow.
The Boston Celtics rest players tomorrow. Home game, tail end of a back-to-back against the Utah Jazz. Jaylen Brown or Jason Tatum or some combination of them, other players on the Celtics. Al Horford's not going to play tomorrow. He's going to rest. Players are going to sit for the Celtics. This is going to be an easier matchup than it appears to be on paper. Taylor Horton Tucker to fill out your lineup.
Sotex says, I still haven't started a Sorare account. Still too much to wrap my brain around. Sotex, let me tell you, I know you're a smart dude because you crush at DFS. It is the easiest thing you will ever do, especially after our, I typically don't try to make lineups before we get our projections. You just look at, I mean, we actually put the optimal lineup out there, and that's cashes every single time. Usually I got 10th place or 9th place or something last week just using the Stochastic optimal lineup. It's, you buy the cards, you can use them on every slate going forward. It's just like DraftKings Rainmakers, if you are familiar with that at all. You buy the cards once, it's free to enter contests, and then you just if you use our projections, you're going to do right.
There we go. And projections, like Neil is saying there, I'm pretty sure totally free. And signing up at Sorare is free as well. Use our link. And then when you get some experience playing Sorare, you get more accustomed to the game. And if you want to build some lineups in the limited player contest, you want to buy some limited player cards, when you sign up using our link, 5 limited card player purchases, 6-1 comes totally for free added to your account. We've got a question also that I thought was an interesting one, so I'll answer this. We had somebody asked about the point guard for the Blazers. Who was it? Nick Era. Nick Era said, who's playing point guard for the Blazers moving forward? So if we look at what they did last night, I could tell you what their rotation was. So at least yesterday, where they did not use Ryan Arcidiacono, they only ran a 7-man rotation. Shaedon Sharpe started at point guard and played a healthy 45 minutes.
My God. And that was no overtime?
Right. Oh, no. They lost by 40. The game was, overtime would have been miraculous.
That is insane. 45 minutes in regulation.
So the rotation yesterday, Shaedon Sharpe started at point guard and played 45 minutes. They played Matisse Thybulle shooting guard. He played 37 minutes. The forwards were Nasir Little. He played 40, despite being absolutely terrible, not being able to make any shots. Kevin Knox played 40 minutes. Eubanks started at center, got into some foul trouble, and they wanted to go smaller, get some shooting on the court. So he only played 25. Then you had John Butler, who I'm convinced is an NPC. He played 26 minutes off the bench. And Jabari Walker played 27 minutes off the bench. So that was the rotation yesterday. I will say that this comes with the caveat that Trenton Watford and Cam Reddish were both out yesterday. And those are guys that are expected to be back into the mix. I don't think Arcidiacono has to get minutes going forward, though. I'm going to assume they just keep playing Shaedon Sharpe at point guard.
It sounds like they want to play their young guys, right? Like, we know what Ryan Arcidiacono is. There's no need to play him. So, yeah, I don't think there's any guarantee that he plays.
Yeah, Nick Era says, if Archie would have gotten close to 20 points, I would have come close to winning it all last night. Yeah, I mean,
that's brutal.
Just sucks. He wasn't in the rotation. Oh, but you got Vic David Figueroa is mad at you here, Jordan. Said he could listen for another 30 minutes, but Jordan is counting it down. I can't, by the way, this time went way easier than I thought it was, Neil. Early in the day, I was a little panicked, if I'm being honest, because are we gonna have anything to talk about for a 2-game DFS slate for an hour and a half? Not only did we do fine with it, people are asking us to stick around longer for some reason.
Yeah. Well, let's stick around. Let's talk about the night MLB slate.
Yeah. But if we were to stick around for all of that, we would have to cover every showdown MLB contest. We have to cover like the in-depth NBA contest. It would be a lot going on.
Vic David says Neil needs an emoji. Yeah, right. Why don't I have an emoji yet on the in the YouTube chat?
Good point. We need,
I don't know who to talk to about
emoji.
this. Yeah, give me a flannel emoji. That's right.
Some other results from the early games. Oh my God, Jaylen Brown, 17 points, 2 rebounds, and 3 assists in the first quarter for Jaylen Brown.
Just do this yesterday, Jaylen, please.
Seems good.
Yeah, that's good.
Seems good. And by the way, we've made it to the end of the show. So everybody who stuck around till the end, thank you very much for hanging out with us. This was fun. A little more open-ended than we typically do with DFS slates because it was hard to only talk about the DFS stuff. We got to run through the game. We talked about Sorare. We talked about life, love, happiness, all of it. We covered everything here. Thank you guys very much for sticking around. If you didn't do it, like the video, subscribe to the YouTube channel. Have a great night. See you guys back here tomorrow.